Everybody, drop your buffs.
Drop your buffs.
Everybody, drop your buffs.
Drop your buffs.
Everybody, drop your buffs.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special podcast of Drop Your Buffs, where we are recapping the strategy, the social game, and the stupidity of Survival Challenge South Africa Battle of the Bush.
Battle of the Bush. Let's do it.
I am so happy to have Evan Johnson back on the podcast with me, but this time as a co-host, but as Dion likes to call it, we are co-stars. Evan, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. I'm so excited to be able to talk with Jack and go through all the strategy. I have so many questions for you, but I managed to narrow it down to my top 407.
Okay,
so
yeah, good.
I hope we
408
can
is where I draw a hard line. So
yeah, that's the limit.
Yeah.
So the reason we are recording today is our friend Jack had the amazing opportunity in September to fly overseas to South Africa and compete in a 5-day Survivor experience in the middle of the bush with former survivors and other Survivor superfans. Jack, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. Just enjoying my Sunday, enjoying some NFL football, and just ready to start discussing the Battle of the Bush.
Woo! So let's start at the beginning, the very beginning, Jack.
Yeah.
Where are you from? Introduce yourself to everyone. How old are you? What are you doing right now? Let's start there.
Yep. Yeah, so I'm 19. I'm currently a sophomore in college at the University of Chicago. So I'm living out here in Chicago. Originally from Connecticut, but I also spent a lot of time in Texas, as the flag might indicate. I'm studying like business, economics, stuff like that. Big Survivor fan, big sports fan, all those things.
So when and how did you get into Survivor in the first place?
So, okay, like way back when I was like 9, which honestly isn't that long ago, there's this show called Endurance. You guys have like maybe heard of that, but I was watching that because it was like people my age. And I was like gonna apply for that, but then I think they took it off the air.
Oh.
So then freshman year of high school, I was just like browsing the on demand on Optimum, and I saw Survivor. I was like, I've always heard of this. Like maybe it's similar to Endurance, which was like my favorite show. It was San Juan del Sur, Blood vs. Water.
Yes.
And I watched the first episode, and I was like, whoa. And then I started binge watching the whole season, and I caught up to like where they were in the season. Just caught up to that and really just fell in love with the show. Started watching everything live, went back and watched like all the other seasons, some of them like multiple times. But a big fan. Yeah.
So you would consider yourself to be like a Survivor super fan? Like
yeah,
you
I
are.
would.
Up there.
Yeah. But for me, a lot of like what I love about it is like the game itself, which is kind of like what I'm excited to talk to you guys about. As like a fan, like obviously it's so cool to watch these players play, but I don't usually find myself like fandoming out over them like maybe some people were in the game, which we'll get to. I really just love like I don't necessarily care about like the people as much, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Like I would agree. So so my next question would be, so you binged all these seasons, you went back and watched everything. How old are you at this point?
Now or back then?
When you first got into Survivor?
I was 14 or 15.
Okay.
14 or 15. Yeah, freshman year
cool.
of high school. Yeah.
Okay. So when did you hear about Survival Challenge and oh, you know what? Spoiler alert. Jack, Evan, and I met each other at this Survival Challenge in Illinois, 2018. And that's how we know Jack. And so, Jack, how did you hear about Survival Challenge and what made you want to apply for it?
So around Co-Wrong, when that was out, I got into like the Survivor Reddit. And so I remember Ryan posting about Survival Challenge for 2017, and I was only 17 at the time. Actually, I think I was 16, but I would be 17 by the game. I like hit him up. I was like, look, I'm a huge fan, and I know I'm too young, but I'm really interested in playing. And he liked me, and like he knew like they weren't going to take anyone under 18, but he kind of brought me up in the meeting or whatever, and they kind of had me in mind for 2018. So then when I reapplied in 2018, they already kind of like knew who I was, and I was pretty good friends with Ryan by that point because we had stayed in touch a little bit. And so that like as soon as I knew I was old enough to play Survival Challenge, I just went for that. Yeah.
Wow.
Ryan was actually Ryan was the one who also introduced me to it, so
Yeah, Ryan's
we have
doing a
him
good
to
job.
blame.
Yeah.
So, you heard about Survival Challenge. You were ready to jump in the
Mhm.
second you turned 18. Do you
Mhm.
want to like just briefly describe that experience or like what you got out of that experience? Spoiler alert, you didn't win. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Um, man, yeah, like I said, I love Survivor a lot for the gameplay. Like I consider myself to be very competitive, and so Survivor to me is like the ultimate game. So obviously I wanted to have a chance to play it. When I played in 2018, it was like I was 5 days after my 18th birthday, so I was like easily the
dang.
youngest one out there. Um, but it was just crazy. Like obviously you haven't and as everyone says, like if anyone's watching and you like don't know about the survival challenge, it is the closest thing to a real survivor that's out there.
Right.
And that's a testimony from actual survivors. It's really just like a condensed version. It's super action packed. So it's just to me like that is still like a 5 day period that I look like I cherish like perhaps more than any like throughout life. Like it was just an amazing experience. And I learned like I felt like I was able to reflect and like improve my potential gameplay abilities, meet a lot of new great people that I obviously still stay in touch with to this day. I mean, it
Oh
was an
my
awesome
gosh,
experience.
when you were saying that, I got like goosebumps all over because I treasure
Yeah,
I treasure those days so much and I learned so much.
yeah.
So I was like, "Oh, yes, me too."
Yeah, and then on just like the technical side, I got 12th. I got out right after Evan did.
Yep.
But that was pissed because they didn't merge till 9, which happened again at the Battle of the Bush. I was literally like shit talking John. I was like, dude, if you merge at 9 again, I'm gonna
No.
be really mad. He was like, "I'll pipe down." I was like, okay.
Okay, so Survival Challenge kind of sparked you playing a lot of live reality games, which Evan and I have both watched you play. So can you like
Multiple.
Too many.
can
No, I
you
mean not too many, but a lot.
a lot. Can you outline how many you played and what they were real quick?
Yeah, so that same summer of Survival Challenge 2018, um, Kirk hit me up like last minute. They needed like an alternate for Coco Pelli. I was like, fuck it, I'm about to start college. I got nothing better to do. So I just did that. Got fourth in that, but it was only 13 people, so it wasn't that impressive. Um, plus I came back from like Edge of or yeah, like Redemption
Oh yeah,
Island.
I
So
forgot about that. Yeah, that's
Oh yeah.
it
cool.
wasn't like that elite of a performance. And then this summer I did Big Brother Columbus to start the summer off. That was a lot of fun. Episodes are out now on YouTube. There's been 5 episodes. Your boy's the star of the show. But that went pretty well. I don't want to. I guess I won't say what I got because I don't want to spoil it in case anyone is watching it. But it was a lot of fun.
I can't wait to watch them.
Yeah, and then I did Real Foot like a month or so later.
Hmm.
That was their last season. I think they just stopped doing production on that. But it was a good experience. There was a lot of aspects of it where I felt kind of gypped by like nothing in particular.
Mm.
Like just a lot of small things adding up that really kind of just
Yeah.
soured my game.
Mhm.
And I was the last pre-merger too, and like there they really keep the jury divided from the pre-merge, and that's a couple nights that they separated. So I really just had like a small squad of pre-mergers, and none of them were like that similar to me in age or anything. So it was kind of just a weird
Oh,
experience. But
Ouch.
yeah.
and there was a lot of people that made the jury that I like felt really good vibes from that I wanted to kick it with more, and I didn't even get the chance to do that. So but it was
Oh.
still a cool experience. It was a well-run game. Like they did a great job. I think that it was their 8th season. So I mean, they did 8 seasons in the books. Like other
Hmm.
than Survival Challenge, I would say that's like one of the peak Survivor games, and that was in the States. So, and then that was the last one I did before the Battle of Bush, which was I
All
guess
right.
grand finale for me because I don't know if I'm really too keen on doing that many more unless it's the real thing. But.
The grand
He
finale.
also he's holding out, but he also played in my mole game, which was janky,
Oh
and it was
yes.
only like 4
No,
hours, so
that yeah,
not really a
no,
live
I was just
game.
about to get to that one because that was the greatest of them all. At Hearts of Reality, Evan
And
ran the mole, and I won,
he won it.
$57. Yep.
Yeah, he won a good chunk of change.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
Were you the
Yeah.
mole?
No, I was not the
no.
mole. I was the one who Adam Kennedy is actually the mole,
Oh,
and
of
I was
course he
the only
was.
one to correctly predict that he was at the end.
Yep.
Well done. So look, you have a win under your belt.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I need. And then when I played a Survivor drinking game last year with my friends, I won that too. So
Okay.
basically, yeah, I win where it counts.
Yeah,
Yeah, so your best games are like those like 2 hour, 4 hour games.
I
Like that's
guess
all.
my best games are with people that don't know what they're doing. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to Battle of the Bush. How did you hear about this survival challenge that was going to take place in South Africa? Because when I found out about this, when I heard about this, it wasn't until I believe I'd already heard about several people already being on the cast. So
Yeah.
talk us through
So
what you heard about.
I don't know exactly. So obviously Bill is the guy who set it all up, and he played on our season of Survival Challenge. And he, for those who don't know, he runs a school down there for underprivileged like kids in the area, like a Catholic school. And so this
Hmm.
was like kind of all designed to get some money for that. So I don't know if he posted about it and I saw, or if he hit me up just like gauging my interest. It was probably last winter, um, or like end of last fall. And I was like, well, that sounds kind of crazy, but pretty cool. And then I was honestly like, Dad, this is what like Bill's doing this. Like, it seems pretty sick. And like, because I honestly, like, I'm in college. I don't have all that money. Like, I worked and got some of the money, but my dad supported
Uh-huh.
the uh, the adventure, and I love to travel. So I was like, Dad, like, I love Survivor. I love to travel. I've been wanting to travel to Africa, and like, this is the perfect
Hmm.
combination. And honestly, for a 2 week trip to South Africa, you're gonna spend more if you go by yourself than you would with this. So I was just like, I just threw it out there. I was like, yeah, I don't really expect anything. But my dad was like, yeah, that sounds really, really awesome. Let's do it. And I was like, all right, like, let's do it. And that's just
I
kind of
love
how it all
it.
came to be.
yeah.
For a while, I didn't even know if it was like gonna happen. To be honest, I was
Right.
like, I don't know. Yeah.
See,
I didn't know. Like,
I thought that because I think Bill was announcing the cast as they were applying, and he announced you and Jill together.
yeah.
I thought that you guys like went in this together. Is that not true? Or
So
when did Jill
I
come on
signed up
board?
before Jill did, and I told her about it. And I think she was actually talking to Tina about it too, but I don't think they were gonna go. And then suddenly she kind of like switched gears, and then they decided to come. So I didn't. I had committed to Bill a little bit before he had like posted that thing about me.
Hmm.
Uh, and Jill, and I had obviously talked with Jill about it because Jill and I actually are stay in touch pretty frequently,
Hey,
which
do you want
is
to tell for the people listening, Jill is someone who was on Survivor. Dr. Jill, she played Survival Challenge 2018 with us, and Jack and Jill became really a close
uh,
alliance during that and have been friends ever
sort of,
since.
perceivably a close alliance. But yeah, we are friends. Oh no, not
Perception is
sort of close
reality,
friends. We're good
Jack.
friends. The alliance is not. Yeah, perception's reality. Yeah, Bill, Jill, and I were all on the same swimming tribe. But after Survival Challenge, Ryan, who for those who don't know, is a producer and ex Survival Challenge winner. Bryce, who is also on our season, and then Jill and I created a Fortnite squad, so we play Fortnite a lot together, and that's how we like talked about Survivor. So yeah, that we stay in touch pretty well. But yeah, and like I'm sure you'll ask about this, like playing with Jill, but it wasn't like I was like, Jill, we gotta go do this together. It was like I signed up. I was
Hmm.
like, it would be cool if you came. And she decided to come,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
we did like strategize before the game and stuff, but I didn't know where everything would go with that.
Ooh, well, that is very intriguing. I will say real quick that when I heard about Survival Challenge, I reached out to my mom and I was like, Mom, I really want to do this, but I have work. And
Yeah,
that's literally where the conversation ended. She was like, "You should go," and I was like, "I have work. I'm a teacher. I can't just like leave
yeah.
my students for 2 weeks." So
Yeah,
that's as far as
I was
my
very,
wish went.
very, very lucky that my school, U Chicago's on trimesters, and so we didn't start the first day of class was October 1st, and if I went to like a normal school where they start in like August, I would not have been able to go. So it was
That
very
is
Oh,
convenient.
amazing. I was
Yeah.
wondering like that you were. I thought you were missing school that whole time.
No, I didn't miss any
Wow.
school. I came back. I went straight from Johannesburg to Chicago, and then started class the next day.
Oh my
So it was pretty
gosh.
just
crazy. Yeah, but it worked out perfectly. Like.
Worth it. Okay, so my next question was, so you kind of brought up your pre-gaming or like your preparation. So my question is, Have you watched Survivor South Africa before? And what was your preparation? What was your pre-gaming leading up to Battle of the Bush?
So I had seen season 6 of South African Survivor, which was last year's season. And I honestly enjoyed it a lot. And that was kind of like another thing that I guess drew me into this event because I
Hmm.
had that connection with the South African version.
Is that the
My
version
preparation,
that is that the version that is the Philippines
yeah,
season with?
Survivor SA Philippines with
Oh my gosh,
Tom on
that's the
it.
only one I've watched, and that is literally one of my top five favorite Survivor
Yeah,
seasons ever.
yeah, it was a great season. And I was excited to see there's three players from that season playing in this
Hmm.
event too. My pregame preparation wise, I don't know. It's partly like once I had signed up for this event, I still had Big Brother Columbus and Real Foot on the horizon before, and so
Yeah,
I guess I like kind of like obviously I know kind of what player how I kind of play, but Big
right.
Brother Columbus and Real Foot definitely helped shape my strategy a little bit better. So coming out of those, I definitely felt better prepared. Um, and I talked, so I kind of just thought about like immediately with it being SA versus USA and survivors versus non-survivors, that creates like a very polarizing dynamic. And I just kind of wanted to think about how do I fit into that dynamic off the bat because you can't think too far into the game. But I just want
Hmm.
to think like off the jump, like how do I want to play this
Yeah.
personally? And then with Jill, we talked too, because in theory, like we had a final two. Um, so we were just thinking like I like to play the middle a lot. Um, and I really like in my mind you had like the main contingent with like Tina or I guess the New England contingent like Tina, Timber Tina, Jimmy T, Jill. I like kind of put her with that, and then like all the fans like Liza, Sam, and then Steve Pickett knows that crowd too. And then you have
Hmm.
like the Philly contingent like Desi, Jervis, who didn't actually end up making it, but he
Oh,
was
right.
like on my mind. Wendell, Bryce, and then they were friends with Desi. Uh, yeah, and so I was like, I don't know if those two groups will really coalesce, if that's the right word, mesh
Hmm.
very well. And
Hmm.
I feel like I could, and like I felt like Jill would be, and we discussed this, like Jill would be much like she knows Tina. She was literally on Survivor with Jimmy T. Like she has bonds there, and I just kind of just felt like I would click with Bryce and Wendell, and I could play that side, and we could kind of just work the middle and play both sides. And that's kind of like what, and that was only assuming that we started as US versus SA, because otherwise, I would still be a aspect in my mind, but if that's not the starting tribe, then it's not that direct. But it worked out to be that those were the starting tribes. So.
Yeah. So what was unique about this game is that you knew the cast in
Hmm.
advance. Did
Hmm.
you like stalk anybody or research or like
Um,
look at what they, if you haven't like refreshed their seasons or?
I didn't go so far as to do that. I did make an effort to learn about the other fans because obviously with the survivors,
Yeah.
save a few of the South African ones. I'd seen all their seasons,
Right.
so I felt like I had a bit of a grasp of how they played. With the fans, I wanted to get to know a little bit more about them. And I know that Sam and Liza both played Survival Challenge. Steve, I didn't realize was playing until we got there. But even
Same
like
with
once
me.
you
I
realize
didn't
that
know he
he's
was
a part
playing
of
until he
Survival,
showed
yeah,
up.
he's a part of Survival Challenge. And then Victoria, I gave a little look into. I guess I did a little like I realized she was friends with or knew Jimmy, so I thought they would be much closer than they actually turned out to be. But with the fans, I just
So
kind of want to get my finger on the pulse of like what they're
this might
about.
be this might be a good time. Evan just mentioned how the cast came out, so everyone knew who was playing. Can we quickly just do the breakdown of how many survivors?
Hmm.
Like, let's just
Yeah,
like
good
list
call.
everyone. So like, let's start with the American survivors.
Yeah, so
Who
we
did you
had
have playing?
we had 7 American survivors. It was Wendell Holland, winner of Ghost Island, Bryce Isaiah from Cagayan, um, Desi Williams from Heroes Healers Hustlers, Ramona Gray from the OG Borneo, Dr. Jill from Nicaragua, Jimmy T from Nicaragua, and then Timber Tina from uh, Panama.
Awesome.
So
And
those were
then
the 7.
okay,
And yeah, and Jervis was supposed to be playing, but unfortunately, like, I think his daughter had to have surgery, so he didn't, and that's why Steve replaced him. So we had 5 fans. It was me, Steve Pickett, um, Liza Townsend, I think is her last name. or Liza Stratton, Liza Stratton,
Stratton.
my bad. And then Sam Kogat and Victoria Asarian. I don't know why I'm doing all the last names. It's cool unnecessary.
Hey, why not?
Yeah. And then yeah, so that was the 5 American fans. And then on the flip side with the South Africans, there was 8 like actual survivors and then 4 fans.
Hmm.
And I guess I don't even know if I can remember them all off the top of my head. But I mean, you had like Tom Schwartz, who won his season, Tony, who was a
Hmm.
very aggressive player in her season, Tejan, who I knew was a fan favorite back in his season,
Hmm.
Nishal, who's just a formidable dude. And I guess that's 4 of them. Then there's Shona, who's like super sweet. Oh, there's Amanda, who actually showed
Hmm.
up late to the she crushed it. Ace, also from the Philippines,
Yes.
and then Marsha, from I don't know what season she was on. And then the 4 fans, there was Rudes, who I came to realize has played like some orgs and stuff within like the American circles, so she knows some of the same people I do.
Oh,
And then
wow.
there was yeah,
Eric.
and then Eric, yeah, he's a super fan.
Hmm.
And I know he's been like in the circulation for the South African Survivor a little bit, so this was like his trial run almost. And
Ooh.
then and then Danae, who was actually a teacher at the school, and she was a big
Mm.
Survivor fan. She was super cool.
Oh,
And
that's
then
awesome.
yeah, and then there's one other that had never that I don't think I played on a tribe with, but I can't remember. Yeah, yeah. Hilgar's hilarious. He was very like quiet, like pregame and stuff, and then I was never on his tribe. But after the game, like when at the after party and stuff, he was like dancing, like singing. He's a hilarious guy. Sorry to forget your name, Hilgar. But yeah,
Awesome.
that was the cast of 24. Um, and yeah, it was a good group of people. You had 2 winners playing.
Yeah.
Like the battle was on.
And what I also thought was interesting is so the United States crew, you guys all met up at an airport,
Mhm,
right? And you flew over together.
mhm,
So when do you think, so the game started in South Africa,
mhm.
Right.
obviously, but when do you think the
The
game
game started.
actually
Yeah.
started? Like, did you have any chats with
I mean,
people over Facebook, or did you like at the airport have
so
like
I
those little
threw out some
joking?
feelers like months in advance over Facebook, just like, hey, I saw you're going to South Africa. Like, can't wait to meet you, and then to see if it goes anywhere from there.
Uh-huh.
It didn't, which I like. Like, I'm glad people weren't like pre-gaming super hard like that.
Hmm.
Except for Tony. Like Tony took the bait and started like chatting with me
Of
as one
course
would
she
expect.
did. I love
Such an
her.
aggressive player, but yes, yeah. And like we chatted about like, oh, how cold's it gonna be? I don't even know. It was pretty pointless. Like I never was even on Tony's tribe. And then yeah,
Oh,
like Evan said, as soon as you start interacting with these people, the game's on. I was the
right.
first one to our gate at the airport, and then Jill was actually the second one, and then the other contingencies who kind of flew in from like Boston and Philly kind of came in as the groups. And I was just
Hmm.
trying to be social. Just give off like just give off good vibes, pretty much. Make some funny jokes as I do, and just
Oh.
like just be nice to people and just give good vibes and hope that people want to work with me. So.
Yeah, and so I was following along from here in Dayton, Ohio, just like trying to follow people's Insta stories, trying to follow along on
Mm,
Facebook. There was like a group that was posting videos and photos and stuff. So I noticed that it seemed like once you guys got to South Africa, you guys maybe had 2 days or longer that
we
before the game
had
actually started.
we had basically 24 hours. So we
Mm.
get there, I believe Tuesday night. We take a bus over to this because we landed in Johannesburg. The game was about 2 or so hours away, so we took like a big bus over to our lodging for the night, and we had like a dinner together. Just hung out, like I guess told some stories and stuff. Like slept, tried to sleep. It was hard to sleep because that was the night before the game started, and I was
Yeah.
and we were all jet lagged because we just flew 15
Is
hours.
this just the
Um,
US crew, or did you meet up with the
we
South
met up. So
Africans as
right
well?
when we landed at the airport, we met up with a good deal of the South Africans.
Mhm.
Probably 75% of them were there. So that was cool. And then a couple came the next day. And then the next day we went on like a game watch, which is basically like a safari. Went over
Hmm.
some rules. Had this discussion about all the snakes that we might see and how they were all venomous,
Oh
which like
dear.
freaked me out. Yeah. Luckily we didn't see any snake, or I didn't see any snakes, but they were. I was kind of freaked out. And then so yeah, we just kind of went through all the pregame stuff, and then the game probably started up about and like check in, like pat down, like Bob Crowley patted me down, made sure I wasn't smuggling in any goods. Um, yeah, highlight of my life.
Oh
And
gosh.
then yeah, and then game was on around 4 p.m.
Okay.
On Wednesday. So about 24 hours after we got there.
So, Bryce Isaiah has a podcast called the Purple Pants Podcast.
Of course.
It's a purple. Okay,
Trying to
and
unwind
he,
like it's a glass of wine.
right?
Yeah,
So he
that's my
has a
boy.
whole podcast episode about his experience at Battle of the Bush, and the reason why I mention it is he talks about how he told Wendell while you guys are all getting ready. He goes, "These are my game draws."
Yeah.
Were you in the room when that happened?
I don't think I was in the room, but I heard about it soon thereafter. And wrestling story about how he likes to take baths at Wendell's bougie place because he got the million. I didn't think about it. I mean, who doesn't know that Bryce and Wendell are close? Like, we're not
Right.
stupid.
But they were.
Um,
Seems like that they were trying to distance themselves, but
Maybe. I mean, I think they might have been trying to work on different people as they did in the game,
uh-huh.
but I mean, I knew they were close. Surprisingly, Bryce did tell me like at certain times, like he would think give it like he didn't care if he cut Wendell at some point. I knew it wouldn't be soon, but I'm just saying
Right.
it was good to know that like him, Wendell, and Ramona weren't like an auto final three. Like I kind of
Yeah, definitely. So everybody go check out Purple Pants Podcast and listen
Yep.
to Bryce's episode called "Buy a Donkey." It's
yeah. I make some
amazing.
appearances. Yep.
um,
AKA
before we,
Nick.
oh my gosh, John Jr., whatever, all the things. So before we start talking about the game, so that was all questions about leading up to the game. So before we start talking about the game, I want to stop and give a shout out to to everyone who provided pictures, videos, and recaps of the event and put them on the Facebook group so that the people back in America or even the people in South Africa, people all over the world could watch this event. I want to especially thank Peggy and Bob Crowley, Peter Tarantino, and Roots for the photos and
coverage,
videos. Yeah, Rudes made a whole document outlining like a video watch list. So if you would like access to the document that tells you what videos to watch in what order, just reach out to any of us. We'll send it to you. And Matthew McCarthy for the document where he made a whole vote breakdown of tribal council by tribal council. So thank you all for providing the resources so that we could enjoy Battle of the Bush.
Yeah, and Pete, yeah, the service out there was a little tough, and Pete, as like the cinematographer, was hilarious because he'd throw I was watching the videos. They're there. Like it always starts out like looking at the ground with no title, so you just have to go like chronologically and hope for the best. And then his commentary was so funny too. Like
It
someone would go
was.
home and be like, "Oh wow," and like the Boston accent. Oh boy. So he was funny. Yeah. But
I
thanks,
loved
yeah,
it.
like Hannah said, thanks to everyone who kind of compiled it all.
All right.
So yeah, you check in.
Let's jump
We're
in.
going.
Let's dive
Yeah.
in, yeah.
So how did it start, Hannah? You watched more. So
Yes. So I was
it's your.
very. I was okay. So let's jump right in. I watched a lot of the beginning videos really closely. I don't remember what the timing was of when that was in America. Maybe it was on the weekend when I had more time. But I was able to watch the beginning videos really closely, and I was able to kind of jump in randomly throughout the competition. So I loved the beginning.
Yeah.
The beginning of Survival Challenge. So you check in, you see 3 tables lined up, and you are told to go find your name at a table. Is that correct?
Name tag, and it was a name tag over like a little wrapped parcel, I guess. Yeah.
Did you think that you were separated into 3 tribes?
I did. Yeah. I wasn't like positive, but I was like, what else is gonna happen now? Like these are obviously buffs in here. I know with John you can't just
You
take
can't.
everything at face value. But I was
Right.
like, all right, this is my tribe. It's a little weird. Like I don't really know if this is the right group for me. I don't think I had Bryce. I don't think I had Wendell. I don't think I had Jill, which are some of the people I wanted to work most closely with. we didn't look that strong. I don't remember specifically who all we had, but
Hmm.
I was nervous. I
Yeah,
was
you were already.
I was like, if I'm on a U.S. tribe strictly, I think I'm in a really good spot. So I just don't want anything besides that.
So John Vitea is the Jeff Probst of Survival Challenge. So if you
Mhm.
hear us say John, we're talking about the Jeff Probst. So yeah, like you said with John Vitea, you can't really take what he
No.
gives you at face value. You have to wait for him to officially say you are a tribe. So then you open up your buffs and you find out that. Oh wait, was this before or after the challenge when you open up your buffs to find out what
This
your
was
tribe is?
before.
Okay,
Before.
so you open up your buffs, you find out, you see your buff, which is the American flag, and then
Mhm.
you realize that you are on Team America, which you just said that was what you were kind of hoping for.
Oh yeah. I mean, immediately I go to. I mean, all the Americans just get together. We're high fiving. We're ready to rock. Like the game's on. I'm glad because I got the job I want, and I got people I wanted to play with, both from like a strategic side and just like a fan side. Like I was like, how cool is it that I'm on a tribe with like Wendell and Bryce and Ramona from the original season of Survivor? Like,
Gosh. You know, Ramona was supposed to play Survival Challenge with us
That's
last summer,
right.
so
Yes.
I was really glad to see her play, and oh my gosh, I loved watching her play. So the challenge is you have to go across a pond and get one reward item. And, you know, long story short, John says go, everybody gets into the water, and I started cracking up when Tom starts swimming and everybody's
oh
only
yeah, I
in
heard
like
about that.
knee
Knee
length,
deep. Yeah.
knee deep water. Everybody's running and there's Tom swimming.
Yeah. No, yeah, I totally, there was a lot going on that challenge. I was kind of just tunnel vision running. Like I didn't see anything else going on. So I didn't even know that happened until later. Apparently there was also an idol or something in the middle of the pond that no one
Oh.
saw. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
and
But
that challenge was right the first tribe to get their item. So everybody has to get their own item, right? And
yeah,
then
there was
the first
24
tribe
items.
that gets back with all their items gets a bonus.
Yeah.
So what was your strategy with picking an item?
Tarp. I wasn't trying to make a pot girl Bree mistake from our season when she did not take a tarp and got poured on. So I wanted a tarp. Man, I goofed that challenge up so bad.
What?
I was like, these people are well, so I'm wearing my old shoes that have like holes in them, and they're not laced that tightly. So I run in, I'm like high stepping. I think I know I'm gonna be good, and like my shoes feel like they're like starting to come off. Like one of them
Oh,
kind of gets stuck in the mud, so I like slow it down. Hillgard comes in hot, gets the tarp I was going for. So I'm like looking
Oh
around. I don't know
no.
what to get. I see like a bag of something like food. I know it's like a food. I don't know what's in it. It looks like flour or something. I grab
Uh-huh.
that, and then at that point, I'm just so stoked that I'm an idiot, and I just freaking from the shore, I just jump up into the water, like make a high leap, not just like run in. I just jump, and I don't stick the landing, so that I like fall in the water, and I
Oh my
come up, and
gosh.
my bag is completely ripped. So I'm just running with the cornstarch, which is like pouring out. I get back. I don't get back like last. I get back
Oh
kind of
my
late though.
gosh.
I'm like covered in cornstarch. It's all stuck to me 'cause I'm wet. And I'm like, yeah, guys, I have like half a bag of cornstarch. And they're like, oh, and I'm just covered in
oh,
like
thanks.
white powder. I'm like,
I
this is not a good start.
last episode, we just talked about Tom in the sand challenge. That's what I imagine you look like, even though it wasn't that bad. Just like the
Yeah,
coated in sand
yeah,
Tom moment, but it was
yeah.
cornstarch.
It was, yeah, it wasn't a good start, but
Was there
I just,
anything in the bag besides
yeah,
cornstarch?
no, it was like cornstarch because you can make like corn cakes or something, which we
Oh,
eventually. I mean,
nice.
there
Okay.
it was honestly like objectively, I guess, a decent pick. Like food is a valuable commodity there, especially because it didn't rain. So we didn't really need a. I mean, the tarps were good though. Tarps always the number one thing.
Right.
But we were able to eat some stuff. Like it worked out.
Yeah. So what was like the main items that your tribe got?
Um, the most memorable. I mean, tarps. I think we got two tarps. We were also all given a blanket in advance, which was nice.
Mm-hmm.
We got samp and beans. That it's like samp is like It's kind of like corn, but also kind of like rice. It was like if it's
Okay.
like if rice
Okay.
the shape and texture of corn.
What?
It was pretty weird, but that was like the main thing that I ate every day because Bryce got it, and
Mm-hmm.
Bryce and I were on the same tribe for the whole game. So
Nice.
every morning I would wake up and he'd pop out the salmon beans, and we just have a little feast.
Breakfast with
That
Bryce.
was a huge thing. Maybe we got some. I think we got 2 rolls of toilet paper. Or no, we didn't get 2 rolls. I don't think we got any toilet paper, but there was toilet paper in the outhouse, so we didn't
Oh,
even need
nice.
that. So it was a good
Nice.
haul. It was a good haul.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was plenty to go around. I mean, there's 24 items out there. Everyone gets an item.
Yeah.
Like and then since we won, since we finished first, I think we got a box, like a box with like 6 matches and maybe like a flint as well, or maybe we got a
Nice.
flint. Might have gotten a flint during the challenge, but yeah, we were pretty set up for it. It was a good start, except for spilling cornstarch all over myself. But
Yes.
Okay, so you guys, like after the challenge, you split up and head to camp. John tells you where your camp is. Was there anything else eventful that happened besides going to camp that night? Or
I don't think so. No.
yeah, I think I mean, that's all the video footage we had was you go to your separate camps. So my next question would be, what were the living conditions in the bush? So like, how is it different from America, and what happened that first night?
The camps were freaking beautiful. Like it's basically like if you're we were up on a hill and it had a little bit of like foliage coverage, so it wasn't like you were out in like just the dry plains, I guess. There was like let's say small trees and stuff,
Okay.
but it was really just like a cleared out area within that. Had a fire pit in the middle. They built us like a nice big fire pit to contain the fires because they didn't want
Right.
any like problems
Mhm.
with the wilderness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that was beautiful. And like we just looked out over the hill, like below us, you could see like the main building of the compound, and then you just see like the whole landscape,
Wow.
which
Mm-hmm.
was fantastic. Living conditions. Well, I mean, we just like put the 2 tarps down because there was no rain expected really, so we just put both tarps down and just slept with our blankets on there.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Was it cold at
and
night?
like the main Yeah, it got pretty cold. I mean, yeah, it was very obviously hot during the day, even though they were kind of just transitioning into spring. And it got pretty cold at night. Not horrible. With the blanket, like some people said they were really cold on some nights. I never was like that cold. The blankets were
Mm-hmm.
really warm.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was definitely colder like the first night of our survival challenge when it was pouring rain and
Whew.
like yeah, that was
Never
definitely
forget.
worse. The main thing is like the nights, since it's so far south and since it was just switching into springtime, the nights were really long. So all the nights were like 11 or so hours probably instead of like 7 or 8 here at that time.
Oh,
And
interesting.
so, especially on the first night, I always stay up a lot, partly because I just can't sleep because I'm excited and uncomfortable, and then slightly just like to make alliances and stuff and just
Right.
socialize.
Right.
And so I get like maybe 4 something hours of sleep. And I'm like, oh, it's gonna be daylight pretty soon. And for the next like
No.
5 hours, I was like, oh, it's got to be 3 a.m. And so then like
The
6 hours
worst part.
later, it's 5. Yeah, and then also the moon doesn't come up until like halfway through the night there. So it'll be
What?
like 12:30, and the moon wouldn't have even come up yet. So then the moon's coming up, and someone's like, "Doesn't the moon have to go like all the way across the sky?" I was like, I don't think so, and I hope not because it's like we've been awake for like 10 hours tonight, and the moon's like a fifth of the way through. Yeah.
That's
So
something
that
So
was
else
like
does
the
that
main
it?
adjustment.
Yeah.
Because also, if you're in the bush and you just that day heard about black mambas in the area, you're not gonna go
Oh
walking
my
around at night. You're gonna like
No.
gosh.
sit there, like if I peed like once a night, I was like tiptoeing through, like trying to look out for snakes and stuff. And there was a couple times I was like trembling. I was like so scared.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah, very fun.
Yes. So what was the vibe of camp? Like, so you have
Good.
these 12 people, which I mean, I guess you've hung out with at the airport, but
hmm
are people like, idle looking and like breaking off, or are you just all sticking together
There's
or?
that first night, there was maybe some breaking off or some whispering, but a lot of it just seemed to be like sticking together, just socializing, talking as a group. I can't remember any like specific strategic conversations I had that night,
Mhm.
Like obviously I was socializing with everyone. I was already pretty like that. I remember that I think that morning, like, at the lodging with Bryce, he and I had a conversation about working together, kind of I guess a pregame conversation. So I felt like I had that pretty well locked in. Like I was spending most of my time before the game with like Wendell and Bryce, and so
Mhm.
I kind of knew I was gonna get with them.
Mhm.
And so I guess like everyone was socializing, but I guess the main thing kind of that night especially was like I kind of predicted a little bit of a divide between like that Philly contingent and like the New England contingent.
Mhm.
Like you might like I would see like Bryce and Wendell and Ramona going off, and you'd see like Tina and Jill going off, um,
Ooh.
and then all the fans kind of just like fan girling out a little bit. I will say that like I'm a big fan, but gameplay wise, I think as of the fans, my fandom like affected me the least. Like
Right.
I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah, I
which we
totally
can
get
get into
that.
more later because
Yeah.
it becomes more prevalent. But
Yeah, I met a ton of survivors last summer. I went to Hearts of Reality in Orlando, met a ton of survivors, and I just like kind of not lost the thrill of meeting survivors, but I was like, oh, they're just like us, like I could totally see myself in your shoes, just like game on. Who
yeah,
cares if you played before?
obviously like I love Wendell and Bryce as players, but
Hmm.
I like worked with them primarily because I associate like I like them as people. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these
Hmm.
survivors are so popular because they're like great people, which is I
Right.
guess sometimes lines up. But if I wasn't like vibing with someone, survivor or non-survivor, I just like it wasn't like, oh, I don't really like this person,
Hmm.
or I'm not getting like good strategic vibes from them. But since they're like a survivor, like I'll try to loop them in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So,
Hmm.
anything else from that first night slash
Oh,
like that
I
super
mean,
long night that you want to
oh,
talk
there
about?
was there was a little bit like the at dusk-ish time where we would like kind of lurked around and over like eavesdropped on the other camp a little bit,
No
even though
way.
yeah, because John came in, um, like talked to us. He's like, I think he was
Yeah.
basically like, yeah, that's it for tonight. But he's like, I was over at the South Africa camp talking to them, and I think he said something like a little bit that made us go like, oh, like I think he said they like scoped out some threats on your side. I was like,
Right.
oh, is that me? And so I think that sparked us to be like, all right, let's just go try to hear what they're talking about. But we didn't want to like get caught, so we were just like lurking through the shrubs, like duck out, and I was like wearing a bright yellow hoodie, and everyone was like, "Yo, get down! Like they're gonna see you." So I was like commando crawling, like Sandra taught me,
Sandra.
and I don't think we heard shit. So it was pretty. It was like we were all bored. Like let's just pretend to
Yeah.
go do something, and nothing came of it. And then Jimmy probably told a lot of stories. He's hilarious. I think he told us
Yeah.
a poem. Yeah. And yeah, it was the poem that I pretended to recite at the start of the Purple Pants podcast with the Dory. Um, that was like a classic poem. But yeah, nothing too major happened. Just for me, especially early game, it's just all about just being social and just getting to know people. It's not super
Right.
strategic.
And it
Yeah.
seems like you were in a good spot. Like you said that you were kind of in the middle of several different contingencies. So,
Hmm. The main thing what I guess I expected or I was thinking that didn't go the way it did. To me, I would have been totally okay with just taking out like Sam and Liza. They're friends already. They were a duo from home almost.
okay.
Mhm.
Like they knew each other from home, so they were like a duo coming in. They
Wow.
honestly weren't like the best in challenges. They were fans, and I mean, you have 8 survivors, or 7 survivors. It makes sense to me. Like maybe they're like, let's just pick off these not very physical, like couple fans that really
Uh-huh.
help us in no specific way. So I was like kind of like, oh, I'm on board for that if it happens. But then I think like with Bryce, this was probably primarily what we discussed. He's like, I'm not getting like good vibes from Tina or like Steve.
Mhm.
And like I know a lot of like Wendell and Bryce and stuff like Steve knew them because he had gotten like like phone calls and stuff with them, and they're like,
Mhm.
we're worried about him because he knows our game. Like we told him about our game,
Ooh.
which
Oh,
I think is a
yeah.
little bit exaggerated. It's like, bro, I know your game pretty well. I
Yeah.
guess you didn't like give me a deep dive on your game, but like I've seen you play, like I know you're dangerous, and if Steve wants to
Yeah.
work with you, then it's like just because
Yeah.
you've told him about your experience. But that was like the initial conflict, and it was probably some of the same vice versa. Like I know Jill and Ramona weren't vibing super well for some reason. I don't think the reason was ever clear. Like they both like each other, but it was almost like
Yeah.
I get the set. I think they're kind of like I get the sense that she's not vibing with me, so now I'm a little standoffish. But it was like a self-fulfilling prophecy where that's why it was like that.
Right.
Um,
And they're also two like
uh,
alpha females, two really strong
yeah,
ladies,
yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so I just kind of got the sense that there was a little bit of conflict starting to form, and that none of it was around me. So I was feeling good, and obviously, as a somewhat athletic guy, like I knew I would be an asset early on, to an extent that I don't like. That wouldn't make sense to take me out first if I'm just chilling, you know.
That is really interesting to hear, like night one, what the dynamics were. Like, I
Yes.
wish I
Yeah.
could see all that. Like, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, and there's 12 people there at camp too, in this like 30 like 40 square foot area. It was more of like a circle, but I guess it's
Right.
still square footage. But there's 12 people, like survivors
It's a
fans, people
lot.
from all over the country. It was a lot going on, and I was by far the youngest too, which I guess was something I had also
You know
thought
what?
about a little bit.
I have not thought about that at all. I did not realize. I didn't even
Yeah,
think about that because,
yeah.
wow.
So yeah, I mean, obviously, I was 19. I just turned 19 for that, or not just, but like 3 months
Mhm.
removed.
Mhm.
Um, I guess Liza, I think, is 23 and Sam's 24, but they're both very like mature. They
Mhm.
both have like partners. Like Sam has a child. Uh, I'm like, and so they come across as like much
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
like they
I
have their shit
honestly,
together. I'm just in college, like I'm a kid. I mean, I think I'm pretty mature too. Like I mesh well, but I was
yeah.
obviously like the youngest one, and then everyone else was at least like 30, and then you have
Mhm.
like you have like Steve, Tina, Jimmy,
Mhm.
Jill, who are all over 50. Like
Mhm.
it's a very old group. So I'm
Yeah.
just like the young buck of the group. But
So end of first day, who did you have a good feeling with? So you had Bryce and
Bryce,
Wendell,
Bryce and Wendell,
probably Jill.
Jill, of course, yeah, that's the thing that kind of persisted throughout the game. I knew Jill wasn't gonna write my name down, but I quickly realized that her path to the end with me was through like Tina and Jimmy, and I was like, that's not gonna be ideal for me. It's not gonna be as fun for me. And if I go to the end with you like that, then you're gonna be the one who's been calling the shots. So I didn't tell her that, but I kind of quickly realized like I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to set up my own options. And I kind of threw it out to her like maybe we go with like Wendell and Bryce and take out, like Eliza or Sam. She's like, no, I think we got to go for like Ramona or Desi. And I was like, well,
Yeah.
I'm looking out. And there was conversations during the game that we had that I was like, I'm looking out for you, especially when I was kind of in a power position and she wasn't.
Yeah.
I was like, look, I'm looking out for you, but I can't promise you that like I'm not gonna like vote your allies out. And
Yeah.
she
I
was like,
think
and then she was like, I'll do the same
mm,
thing.
Was there anybody else that you felt close to? Like, did you have any conversations with Steve or anybody else, or was it
Yeah,
like
I
those were
mean,
your main feel good people
yeah,
going
those were
at the end of
something
first
of
day?
my main feel good people because I felt like I could reach a lot of other people through them, which
Mhm.
in a big group is a good way to like Desi and Ramona and I had conversations. Um, not as closely as with Bryce and Wendell, but I knew like they were good with me. There was this. I think this may have been the next morning. But there was a conversation that I went down. There weren't many places to have like private conversations, but when I was like going to get fire or whatever with like Bryce
uh-huh.
and Wendell and Desi and Ramona, there was a conversation where they're like, "Yeah, we want you with us. We want you with us." I was like, "Yeah, I'm down. Like, obviously, I'm gonna work with you guys." And then the code name Blackjack was developed. And so that's what my operative name. So I was definitely just in good with that group, I guess. And then so the main point of contention in my game early on, again, I don't know if this is the first night or the next morning, but
Uh-huh.
Jill tells me that Tina was like, "Oh, Jack's like definitely with the Philly people. He's definitely with the Philly people. He's not even gonna vote with us. Like, don't even bother talking to him." I was like, "That's not good. Like, I'm probably with the Philly people, but at least you should talk to me and think I'm with you." So I remember definitely the next morning I had a conversation with Tina, and I was kind of like, "Yeah, it would be stupid for me to go with them. Like, we have the numbers. Like, I'm just gonna rock with you guys." Um, and like she was right. So it wasn't. I wasn't like 100% locked with the Philly people though. But she was right that I was leaning their way. Obviously, you
Mhm.
should like still talk to me. Like I'm a swing vote potentially.
Mhm.
But I had a conversation with her, and to me, in that conversation too, she didn't even seem super sold by what I was telling her, or she didn't even like bother to seem that sold. She
Mhm.
was like, "Oh right, yeah, that makes sense." And I was like, at that point, and then what Jill told me is she's like, she doesn't want you out, which was good news to me. She's like, she just doesn't think you're with us.
Yeah.
I was like, I was like, I mean, and then and then Jill was kind of like, go through Jimmy. Like, if you can get to Jimmy, and Jimmy and I can both advocate for you, then Tina will probably come around. And I was like, yeah. So I worked on Jimmy a bit.
Uh-huh.
I mean, Jimmy's a very interesting cat, but he's a good dude,
Uh-huh.
and he's just fun to talk to. So I was working on him, and then with the fans too. With the fans throughout the whole game, I was kind of always just like showing love for the fans, not my fans, just the fans in general.
Oh.
Where I was kind of just almost trying to generate like an unspoken thing that I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely always looking out for the fans. Um, like Steve and I connected. I knew he wanted to work with me.
Mhm.
Victoria and I were connecting well, and she was actually she surprised me because I thought she was going to be like this with Jimmy because I didn't know what their prior relationship was, but Jimmy was really just her crew coach for a while, and Victoria only knew him as a coach, and just saw that he had said something about it on Facebook, and she just got interested like on her own like her own incentive or whatever,
Mhm.
and so they weren't that tight. So Victoria was like starting to come with like me and the Philly group, and I was skeptical of that, but we actually did have her with that group too. So we would have had that six if we needed it.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, but Victoria and I got along well. And then Liza and Sam and I all got along pretty well too. I think
Mhm.
I vibed a little bit more with Liza than Sam, but
Mhm.
I felt like I had that going pretty solid. So I
Yeah.
thought
So
I had all my bases covered pretty
you're in a
well.
good spot, sounds
Hmm.
like.
Yeah,
So
good spot.
then eventually the sun comes up
Eventually,
and
yeah.
we're to day 2. And so what happened? What was like the first thing that happened with the survival challenge aspect of it? You get taken to the
Yeah,
school, right?
yeah, we get brought to the school, which was awesome. They brought us in like this room, like this assembly room, and the kids like put on a performance, like sing songs, dancing. They
Aw.
actually they actually memorized all our names, some better than others, but they went around. Bill's wife like pointed to each person, and they would like scream our name and be like "woo," and I was
Oh.
it was pretty sweet. They forgot like a couple people's names, which was a little awkward, but they remembered mine well enough. Um, so yeah, it was just, and then yeah, songs and dances, and then we went outside and did some challenges.
Mhm.
Like it was, I guess, reward challenges, but there was no actual reward to be had. It was just like for bragging rights against the other country. But it was still a lot of fun, and the kids were like watching the whole time. We did like tug of war. The best one was the those
Bubble
big
soccer.
inflatable bubble soccer. I was going off in that. But it got so hot because it was just the first to one goal. I think we were playing for like 20 minutes and no one had scored. And it was
Wow.
like 90 degrees out, and I was in that bubble for the whole time. And I was laying people out. I was just like blindside hitting people. I was like vicious, like Tom. And I didn't realize who was in the bubbles. It was like, I think one of them was like Danae, who was like the teacher from the
Oh,
school, who's just like five
no,
foot
you
two,
didn't.
like 90-pound
Oh.
girl. I thought it was like Tom and Nishal and stuff. So but I would come from behind people and just like boom and just deck them. And
I
like I could
loved
hear
watching
Tom
that
screaming
challenge.
from the side. I could hear Tom scream from the side. He's like, "Watch out for Jack! He's coming from the blind side." And then, but yeah,
I
and then
love that
that I guess that
challenge.
kind of put a little, yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say I loved that challenge. It looked hilarious. It just was so funny. Like you said, watching someone just run and just run into someone with their bubble and they just go flying.
It was
Oh, it was so
crazy.
funny.
Yeah, but the
So
challenges
you,
were all pretty fun. I think that kind of put a target on my back as like a physical player. Um, but other than that, like challenges were fun. Nothing too memorable, and I might have like let off the gas a little bit in some of them because I was like, all right, this kind
Mhm.
of makes me look like a threat, and like these
right.
challenges literally matter for nothing. So I'm
Yeah,
just
so like
gonna,
at the end of the day, so you guys got points for which challenges you won. At the end of the day, South Africa has won the day by
yeah.
1 point. So
It
do they
was
get
weird though because
mm-hmm.
some of the challenges were weighted like differently. So I'm pretty sure we like
Oh,
won more challenges.
that's
But
what I
Mhm.
was
also, no one got
wondering.
a reward. No one got a reward, so like I wasn't really tweaking about it. We got lunch that day though. Like they cooked us all lunch, which was cool.
Oh, that's nice.
So
I
everyone
guess
got
that
a
was the
reward.
reward. Yeah, everyone got a reward. Um, Bill and John are definitely different in that. John just wants you to like starve and be miserable, which is like I kind of understand. And then Bill was like, "No, we'll make sure you have enough food every day."
Yeah, I mean,
I
and
like,
it seemed like the purpose of that day was obviously to do the challenges, and so everyone gets to experience challenges. But, it
mm,
was for the children of the school, right? They got to watch the challenges, and they
Hmm.
got to, like, so, yeah, it seemed like they made you guys posters, notes,
yeah.
performances.
And then
It looked
after
like it was
that,
awesome.
yeah, it was great. After that, like we went around the school, like went to different classrooms, learned a little bit about the school. Or that might
Oh.
have been before some of the challenges, but just during that day, like kids, I've don't have it on now, but like a kid made me like a little bracelet that I've been wearing.
Oh my
They wrote like
Oh.
gosh.
letters, like so cute. And I used to work at like an elementary school with young kids, so it
Uh-huh.
was I really enjoy just like being around like the kids. So that's like another great part of the trip overall.
I'm
Mhm.
sure. So, like, okay, that sounds amazing. So, South Africa wins. They have bragging rights.
Yeah.
We,
But they kind of knew that like they didn't really like beat us, so it
yeah.
wasn't even like they were
Yeah.
bragging that much. Yeah.
I love that. That's funny how there's like it was like weighted differently. Okay, so you return to the campsite and you find out you're doing a tribe swap. Were you surprised by this? Or is there something else
I
that
don't
happened?
think we went back to camp.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure though. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we get back. I think we just go directly into like the main like sitting area of
Mm-hmm.
the site, which was like inside, which I thought was like a bit weird that we were just chilling inside like drinking water instead of just standing outside.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's when the swap happens. And
Were
then
you happy that this was happening, or were you nervous,
I was
or
nervous.
were you
Since I
expecting
fell in a
it?
good spot, I was expecting it. Since I was in a good spot, I wasn't like happy about it necessarily, but I'm also like, and I did this in our survival challenge. I always like to just find like more action. Like let's keep the game going. So
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
even if it's not the best thing for my game, this like a swap, I'm excited. Like let's meet some new people. Let's mix it up. And then the votes are gonna start soon, which you're nervous for, but that's what you came to do, and you're excited. And so yeah, the swap honestly like worked out really well for me too, and I'm sure yeah.
So like how so mentioning our survival challenge swap, did you have to talk to Jill first before the swap happened? Like you had to do an our survival challenge?
Nope, but I wasn't a captain. If I was a captain, I might have asked.
Like,
Oh.
excuse me, can I
Uh,
talk to Jill real quick? Yeah, so was
That's-
there was two captains chosen by random and they didn't know three. Okay, tell us how it went down.
so at that original challenge, the first one, the one where we ran across the pond, three of the items were different glass bottles that you
Oh.
couldn't open until you were told to. And
Oh
so
dear.
yeah, three of the female fans, it was I think Sam, um,
I think
Rudes.
Liza.
Yeah, Sam, Liza, and Rudes,
Hmm.
I believe. Or
I
no,
might be wrong.
Sam, Victoria, and or
Okay,
no,
okay.
Sam, Victoria, and Liza. No, no,
Okay.
Jesus. Rudes, Rudes, Victoria, Liza
Okay.
were the captains. Sam was not a
Okay.
captain. So, but they had these bottles, and that's what we were theorizing was going to happen was they'd be the captains when we swapped. So
Oh,
they were the
gotcha.
captains.
Hmm. The
And then I think
captain
each
now.
bottle also had a number in it that indicated like which pick you got, and it went in like a snake draft order though. But
Okay.
uh, my, I think
So,
I ended up on
yeah.
Liza's tribe, and she
Okay.
had the first pick.
So she picked you first, is that what you're saying?
No, no,
Oh.
I didn't get picked first. She
When
picked.
did
Who did she pick?
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sure like
and
Wendell
the
was
rule was
first.
that no, because the rule was you had to pick someone that was so they broke us up into like our different subgroups. So it was like male survivors over here, like male American survivors over here, male South African survivors over
Oh.
Wow.
here, like male like American fans over here. It was like me and Steve, like
Uh-huh.
female South African fans over here. And so you had to pick someone firstly that was from uh I believe like the first you had to pick someone that was you had to alternate nationalities, and then you had to pick from like different groups. Like you couldn't pick two male South Africans back to back. You would have to pick like a female South African. Um, It was a little confusing, but basically you had to get representation from every group possible.
Oh, that's
Mhm.
cool.
And the only way you wouldn't get representation from that group is if they ran out of people to pick from, in which case you could pick like a repeat, which was what happened at the end. So Liza went first and she picked Nishal, who is this big South African survivor.
Mhm.
She could have picked Tom, but she went for Nishal. And then it was like,
Tom loved that, I'm sure.
and then, yeah, and then
Well,
I
I guess
think
you don't have to tell us
Victoria
the
picked
whole.
Tejan.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But the first picks was like Nishal, Tejan, and then Rude's got back-to-back picks, so she picked like Wendell and Tom, so she was loaded up pretty quickly.
Nice.
And then I think when it looped back around to me, then Nishal picked Bryce, and then Bryce picked me, and then
Okay.
that's
Okay.
kind of like how our tribe started up. So I was the first fan off the board, but obviously a lot of the survivors were picked first.
Yeah. So we had so our three new tribes. The blue tribe is called
I haven't.
Talu. Talu.
It's like it's like Sukudu or something.
Oh no, that's the
Sukudu?
green tribe is Sukudu. I might
Uh,
have this wrong on my list.
oh, the blue tribe's
Yeah.
Tulu.
like
So-
Mane or
Tulu.
something.
Yellow
is it-
is Nare.
Yeah, I didn't even know that, and that was my tribe.
So
So
we've got the blue tribe, the green tribe, and the yellow
green tribe and the yellow
There we
tribe.
go.
Yep, and I'm on the yellow tribe.
All right, how are
I
you
was on the
feeling
yellow
about?
tribe.
Yeah, so you're on yellow tribe. How are you
I
feeling
felt
about your tribe?
I felt so good. My tribe was the
Yes.
only tribe that had a majority of Americans.
Mhm.
Okay.
It was 5-3. The other tribes are 4-4 and 3-5.
Oh.
I had Bryce, I had Jill, who were like my two closest people in the game.
Yeah.
And I felt good about Liza. And then we also had Tina, which was a little nerve wracking, but I knew Jill wasn't going to let her target me. And then from the South Africans, we had Nishal, who I liked a lot. We got along well. We kind of broed down together. Then we had Marsha, and then we had Daneo. And Daneo's great, but I was a little worried just because she's not great at challenges.
Mhm.
But then the day gets crazy, I will say. Once we start switching it up,
Oh.
things start to get crazy.
Did you go right into the fire making challenge, the first tribal
No.
challenge? Okay, what happens
We
next?
went back to camp. We went back to camp for hour or two, and then we
So
had
when
that
you
fire making
say-
challenge.
When you say you went back to camp, there's 3 tribes, so
Yeah.
did one tribe have to build a new camp?
One tribe got a new campsite, and they had to like set it up, but they didn't really like build anything. Nothing
Okay.
needed to be built, but they did get a new camp. But I was actually at the U.S. camp the entire game.
Oh, that's cool. Mhm.
Yes. So, yeah, I just stayed there. I went back to my original camp with a new tribe, obviously.
Mhm.
And then you go back and you have your first tribal challenge, which is the fire making challenge, where you have to build a fire and burn through a rope. And it was
Yeah.
a nail biter. I remember watching that one
Nice.
when it happened. And
We all had fire going,
oh,
I think.
yeah, you did. And
during-
it
and-
came down to seconds.
Yeah,
Oh,
my tribe
well,
got the fire
mhm.
going first, I
Yeah.
think, and then we ended up losing.
Where did you
'Cause-
guys go wrong? What happened?
I think our sense of geometry was probably really shit. I think we just like stacked. I think we just stacked stuff too much and didn't actually make like a pyramid.
Oh.
I don't know. Also, like I think we appointed a couple people to be in charge of the challenge. And then because obviously it was a small space and you could use as many people as you want, but obviously you don't want 8 people like all fiddling around and doing stuff.
Right.
So we had 3 people doing it. And I don't think I was one of those people. So that's not my fault, I guess. I don't know. It went poorly though. I was definitely crushed. Like it sucks to lose the first challenge, and have the first boot come from your tribe. But
Yeah,
then,
but that tribal wasn't that night. It was
the
actually the
tribal was
next
the next
night.
morning.
So
the next morning.
you guys had a lot of, I'm sure, discussion to
Yeah.
do.
So we go back to camp. And at this point, I'm in a good spot. Like I said, I got Bryce, and we're looking good with like Liza too. And then I actually become fairly close with Liza because we're the 2 American fans, and we know we're kind of in the middle of Bryce and then Jill and Tina.
Hmm.
But obviously the plan there is just stick American strong at first. So that's like what everyone's down for. Even though Tina and Bryce have kind of like a little bit of conflict, like they're throwing each other's names out a little bit. But we were pretty much like American strong.
Hmm.
So really the question became, which South African do we want out? And the easy answer was Daneo, because she's not very strong at challenges. And she was super duper quiet, but she kind of had that thing where she like, you could tell she knew what kind of was going on. So I
Uh-huh.
was worried, like Bryce was super worried she could be like a silent assassin. and we knew if she made it deep, she'd have like a great story too.
Right.
But really, she just wasn't the best at challenges, and she just wasn't super talkative too, which
Mhm.
like that's her nature, which I respect. But as a player,
Mhm.
like I want someone I could really talk to a lot.
Yeah.
So we wanted her out. Then we get back to camp, and I don't know if this there was like rumors about her picking something up when we're on the way back on the trail. There was rumors about Nishal finding something. So I'm like, okay, like we gotta suss this out. I'm lying on the tarp while people are like going to the bathroom or whatever. And then Tina's lying near me, and then Danae's right there, and she's like, I found an idol, by the way. I was like, this is not good. And I was like, and and then I was like trying to see if we could, I could like see the idol because she didn't show it. But I
Uh-huh.
didn't want to be like, yeah, can you show it to me? I was trying to
Yeah.
like suss it.
Yeah.
And then Tina's like, Daneo, can we talk for a second? And then just turns to me and just starts whispering like, what do we
No.
do? I was like,
You-
I mean, it was like that probably wasn't good, but also it was like Daneo who wasn't that like harmful. So
Yeah.
it's like, but she didn't hear what we said. I was like, I don't know what to do. Like we collect ourselves like that night overnight,
Uh-huh.
and we're confused like because there was theories that like Nishal had found something and then given it to Daneo to then play for him,
Oh. Oh
which
dear.
didn't really make sense to me. But
Uh-huh.
it was like, for one, I didn't really want Nishal to be the vote because I liked working with him more than any of the other other
Mhm.
South Africans in that group.
Mhm.
And then but then Bryce really, really, really liked Marsha, and I liked Marsha too. And so, but we were like, we can't really vote for Daneo. Like we can't split the vote. It's 5-3. She has an idol
Mhm.
potentially.
Mhm.
Bryce doesn't want Marsha out, but we also don't want Nishal out. I don't want Nishal out. Other people don't want Nishal out.
Oh my
So
gosh.
we're like, what do we do? And then I don't know who came up with the plan. It might have kind of been me and Bryce.
Mhm.
We were like, we're gonna tell Marsha and Daneo because they were more of a pair than
Mhm.
like they were more together than Nishal was with them. We were
Mhm.
gonna tell them to do Nishal, and then tell Nishal to do Marsha, and then we were gonna do Marsha and blindside Marsha.
Mhm.
Because at that point they weren't really operating as a three.
Mhm.
So yeah, in that way we could kind of could have split the vote, but then we would have been relying on Nishal to like come through for us. So
Oof.
then yeah, like it's a really kind of a crazy night, and then we get to tribal council. There's a lot of whispering going on. Well, not really at tribal, but like whispering while we're walking there.
Yeah.
And everyone's pretty much set on the plan to blindside Marsha, and I thought she might have seen it coming, but I don't think she saw it coming. So the vote was
Uh-huh.
6-2, I think, and she went home. And Daneo did not play her idol, and she did have an idol. She showed it. She just didn't play
Wow.
it.
At tribal?
Dang.
So yeah. I don't know. I think she's hmm. I remember she definitely like showed it to Jill, and Jill was like, yeah,
Mhm.
she showed it to me. So I knew she had
Okay.
one.
Okay.
And I was like trying to get her to play it, just like by like staring at her a particular way. But she didn't play it, so I was like, damn, like
Nice.
she's got to play. She's still got the idol, and we can't even vote her out
Yeah.
now.
Oh my
But
gosh.
Marsha went home, so it was a smooth first tribal. Like smooth
Mhm.
enough. Like it could have been worse. But I think they voted
Yeah.
for Nishal too. So
Oh, interesting.
So you survived the first tribal. So
yeah,
that's
I
good.
was not the first boot. That would have been really sad.
Yeah. The second challenge was tension in the air. And is that the one that has like describe that challenge, Hannah? Take
I
it
believe
away.
this is the one where you're pulling the string and you're stacking the blocks in the middle
In the
while
middle?
Yeah, I think that
Okay.
was
everybody's
the
pulling.
one.
Which,
So we've
so you've
yeah.
played that.
Yeah, I played that a couple times actually. I did that at Real Foot too, and I did super well on it. So I felt pretty good about that. We won that one, right? Or
Yeah,
no,
you
did we
guys
lose that?
no, you won that one.
Okay, yeah. That was like the only one we really won outright. But we did a good job. I have really long arms and my balance is decent, so I was able to like I could just like go halfway down the rope and then just reach all the way out
Right.
and then just drop it and then like take 2 steps back.
Oh, you know what? That's the one where the other tribe won first, but you guys were right after. You had the finishing block. Yeah, but you guys did win at least.
Yeah, we didn't lose is the main
Yes.
thing.
So for
Yeah.
that one, since you've done it so many times, did you like put yourself in like the strategy, like, hey, we should do this? Or I guess you have
Yeah,
Jill
I
on your
kind of
tribe,
did.
so I could
I
see
put
Jill
myself. Yeah,
also doing
I made like a couple put it like threw a couple tips out there, I guess. I kind of took the hero role. I think I was the last one to place a block. And yeah,
Mhm.
it worked out. So
Nice. Oh,
Did you
go ahead, Evan.
did you make it known how many games you've played?
I said I played Survival Challenge 2018, and that was it.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I knew like some of them would know that I
Yeah.
had played that.
Yeah.
hmm Yeah.
So, Tejan gets voted out.
Tejan.
Tejan,
Yeah.
sorry, Tejan.
Yeah.
Anything interesting about that you want to mention? For the tribals that you weren't at, feel free to share anything you want, or we could, move on because I know you weren't
Yeah.
there and whatnot. So,
Yeah. I mean, Tejan, I would just say that was like one of the most shocking early vote outs. Like he was super social guy, like seemed really smart. He was a fan favorite back in his season. Like
hmm
I thought he could go really deep, and I was just confused with the diet, like what had happened. And also,
right.
you could sort it while we were in holding. You could sort of overhear the reading of the votes.
Ooh.
And I think it was like 6 votes Tejan, 2 votes Ace, and I had expected them to probably work together. So I was
hmm
just pretty confused at that point. But I was like, he's a physical player. Like I guess good thing he's gone. Yeah.
Nice. The next challenge is Block Party, where I believe it is the puzzle where there's like blocks you have to put. Do I have this right? The blocks they have to put into like a cube, and it's like
Yeah,
angled
probably.
blocks.
Yeah.
And you guys lose this one,
Yeah.
right? Head
We
to
did
tribal
bad.
again. I was actually just
Yeah.
watching this tribal council before we started recording. I was watching this one because I didn't get to watch this one.
This
Um,
one was spicy. This was a
it was
spicy tribal.
it was spicy. One thing of note that I wanted to say is I loved when Nishal says, "I'm using my extra vote," but he said it kind of quietly at the end of tribal, and Bryce goes,
Yeah.
"Huh?"
Yeah.
So what
It
do you want
was
to say
weird.
about this tribal?
I actually don't know if he even used it. We were a little confused. Like Bryce and I were like, after the fact, we were like, did he use it? Because he said he wanted to, but then he might have just gone and not used it and like pulled a little bit of a fast one. Because like the way the votes were read, we didn't need the last vote. But
Uh-huh.
going into this tribal, Bryce and I were doing a lot of strategizing and thinking, and we knew Daneo had an idol. We figured she'd probably play it,
Mhm.
because that's kind of like where everyone's head was at. And we didn't want Nishal gone because at that point we had worked in pretty closely with Nishal. He was a good player. So besides those two people, it's like it's only Americans that you can vote for. And so Bryce is thinking. I think Bryce, Liza, and I get together at that point. We're a pretty solid three at that point within the tribe, and we tossed out the idea of doing Tina and telling Nishal to vote Tina and blindsiding like Tina and Jill, and like that was our
Ooh.
four. And I mean I didn't really have a major preference. I don't think I knew blindsiding Jill would be problematic, but I also knew Tina might be bad for my game. So
Mhm.
I remember us three were walking, like they were like, you got to go in a tribal now. I was like, let's just decide right now, like do we want to make a move here or not? And then like and then Eliza and Bryce were kind of like, yeah, let's just do Tina. I was like, all right, like let's do it.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, that tribal went well. I think it was like 4 votes Tina, 2 votes like Nishal, 1 vote Daneo or something. I don't
Did
know.
she play her
But
idol?
we played her idol, so we flushed the idol and we got Tina out. And Jill was like obviously really pissed.
Yes,
So I
the
did a little damage
aftermath.
control.
Did you
Yeah, she
manage
was.
to bring her back in?
Yeah, to an extent, like she seemed pissed, but everyone was like, it was the kind of piss where she was kind of isolating herself from the tribe, so she didn't really seem to have an option besides me. And it was like at that point, it was one of those times where I told her I was like I kind of told her like I didn't see myself working that well with like your group, so I had to like kind of just make my move, and like Bryce and Liza were pushing for it, like I put it on them. Um, and then she was like, yeah, at least just. And I was like, I'm gonna be looking out for you, but like sometimes I'm gonna have to make moves without you. And she was like, yeah, just like look out for me. But she's like, she was like, why didn't you tell me? I was like, well, it's kind of obvious why I didn't tell you. Like Tina's your friend. But I was like, and then
Yeah.
I kept that in mind for later on that I should tell
Uh-huh.
Jill. And it yeah, we'll cross that bridge when it gets there.
Uh-oh.
Ooh. Okay, so then there's the snake ladder challenge. Hillguards voted out of that tribal. Anything you want to say about that?
I don't really know. It wasn't a huge surprise, and the Green Tribe like I didn't end up playing with that many people from the Green Tribe really, so I didn't get a
Mm-hmm.
full sense of their dynamic.
Yeah.
Like why Tejan was gone, why Hilgard was gone. Um, yeah, I didn't. I know Hilgard was in the majority on the first vote, so maybe that was a bit surprising because I think the two votes for Ace that first vote were Tejan and Desi, but
Mm-hmm.
I guess it makes sense that they didn't vote out Desi. So
Hmm. The next challenge is Colored Cubes challenge. Is that the one that was where there's four cubes and you have to make sure the colors don't match on
no, that
every
was a
side? No,
different
that's
challenge.
okay.
Yeah,
Um, so this Colored Cubes challenge, you guys lose this one, correct?
probably. Yeah, I
Yeah.
Yeah,
don't remember the
I
challenge
believe
exactly, but
Daneo, I believe, is the next vote out.
yeah, that was pretty straightforward, other than Jill being kind of pissed. But at that point, like
Yeah,
Bryce and I had a firm grasp on the tribe. We had Liza with us. We had Nishal with us. I had Jill still like having some loyalty towards me. Daneo now has no idol. It was a pretty
right.
straightforward vote. Probably the most straightforward of the day for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there have been 5 immunities so far, and you've lost 3 of them.
Three
Is
of
there any
them.
reason why that you think your tribe have lost so many? Is it
Um,
unlucky or just bad
Probably
performers
just
or
bad performance, honestly. Like the
yeah,
blue tribe has Wendell, Tom, stacked.
the
Green tribe
beasts?
similarly not like also not that skilled, but I guess like better at puzzles, which I maybe was what we were losing on. Like Danae wasn't great at challenges. Um, Liza wasn't fantastic at challenges. We were solid enough, but we weren't getting
Yeah.
blown out. But it just yeah, it was bad. Like we lost, and then we ended up losing the most challenges that day of any tribe. So
Yeah, and John Vitea doesn't help when he keeps bringing it up during tribal council. Thanks,
yeah,
John.
yeah, yeah,
uh,
that's true.
the next two vote out. So the next challenge we have slide puzzle. Tom is voted out. Oh, that one
Yeah.
hurt.
No, well, the slide puzzle was great because I finished it in like a minute, and then everyone else took like 10 more minutes after that.
Nice,
And they're
Jack.
like,
I didn't
who?
get to
And
watch
then
that one.
yeah, they were like, who's this? Well, I remember after we swapped the next time, they were like, who was like the puzzle wizard for your tribe? And then someone was like, was it Liza? And I was just like, yeah, yeah,
Yep.
Liza did that. It wasn't me. Um, yeah, I didn't watch the Tom one either. Actually, it would be interesting to watch
Did I
because
hear he
he
like fell
basically
on the
bowed out.
sword?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Oh, I saw
was
that. Yeah.
it was pretty dumb, honestly. Like, I believe Sam was gonna get voted out that tribal, and he kind of fell on the sword. Like, partly I guess I respect it. Like, I know where he's coming from, but Tom, as much as I love him, Tom loves like to get honor and like admiration, and you kind of see that from him in his
Yeah.
season. And so
Yeah.
I think a lot of it was like, oh, if I do this, people will really feel like, oh, that Tom, you're so
Hmm.
you're great. And then also part of it might be like Tom's like, oh, if I do this, I get honor and I can't actually be voted out, so it can't hurt my resume. Because like honestly, Tom wasn't gonna win that game if he stayed in.
Yeah.
He just
Right.
was gonna win. Yeah.
Right. So if anybody has watched Tom's seasons of Survivor South Africa, you would totally understand everything Jack is saying right now.
Yeah.
Tom is quite the character, and
Yep.
I love watching him play. Next
Yeah.
challenge
No, he's a
is
character. Yeah.
yeah. Next challenge is high five. I believe is that the one where you're holding up discs with your hands, and it's an endurance challenge. And Desi is voted out of that tribal council. Anything you want to share about that challenge and that vote out?
Yeah. The challenge was cool. We ended up winning, and that challenge was pretty strenuous. I was partnered with Jill actually, so at that
Mm-hmm.
point we were definitely like fully back, like solid, for the time being.
Did
Was hyped to win the
you
challenge.
were you one of the last people in that challenge?
Yeah, I was in when the challenge ended. Well, I think our team had both me and Jill, and then Bryce and
Okay.
Nishal or someone still going. So we had two pairs still in of ours. Like only one pair dropped. We did the smart thing where we dropped a hand early on and just did that. Um, and it was beneficial. Desi getting voted out was a big surprise to me because at that point they had voted out two South Africans, so I didn't really know the
Mm-hmm.
dynamic over there. I
Mm-hmm.
thought the U.S. just had a stronghold on that tribe, and also I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to work with Desi, so I was sad that she had gotten voted out. But yeah,
I was heartbroken when I saw that. I was like, "No, Desi." I was looking forward to seeing her game unfold
yeah,
much longer.
she's a solid player. Like she's smart, physical, social. Like she's
Mhm.
got like the
Mhm.
trifecta. It's just yeah, it's just I guess unlucky or just this scenario didn't work out. Yeah.
All right, let's jump into the next challenge, Tower of Terror, and your tribe loses.
Yeah, that sucked. Cause also and this isn't like I'm not saying they shouldn't have done this, but I think we were supposed to make it like 10 stacks high, and because it was like windy and stuff, they changed it to 9 during the challenge. But just before they changed it to 9, we had gotten to 9 and then failed during our 10th.
Oh.
Um, and so, but then the other two tribes then got it on their next try, and they started us all at the same time, so that was fair.
Okay.
But it
Yeah.
was just like it was totally fair. It was just frustrating
Yes.
because we were like we literally got
We
Yeah.
that
had
before,
it.
and then now, so we lost that one. That challenge was really frustrating.
Ooh, it looked like it.
Yeah, and then we go to
Um,
tribal, and I'm
yeah. All right, tell us. I want to know what's going on with this. But this is
so
the one where Jill gets voted out, and there was
yeah.
tension at tribal.
Here's the deal. So, well, and I'll give you the pre-tribal rundown. I want Jill to stay. I'm doing what I can to keep Jill in. So I go to and then at this point, Bryce and Nishal, I'd say are like now the kind of the core three. So we're debating like, should we do Liza or should we do Jill? Bryce is like, let's do Jill, let's do Jill. Nishal's like, I don't know, like I think we could benefit from keeping Jill. And I was like, I also think we could benefit from keeping Jill. So we convinced Bryce to vote Liza. So Jill, and this is pretty big blindside because we were kind of working with her. And then so Jill, obviously, who was pissed off earlier that I didn't tell her about the Tina vote, I came to her. I was like, I didn't say this directly, but I was like, I'm basically
Mhm.
saving your ass. We're gonna do Liza, and she was
Mhm.
like, okay, got it. So I was like, all right, Jill's on board. Like, what? Why would
Oh.
she mess this
No.
up? And then right before we go into tribal, she's talking to Liza, and I was like, what are they talking about? So then we
Oh
sit
gosh.
down, and Liza's like
No.
immediately like, can I just clear this up? Jill just told me that you guys are voting me out. So Bryce and I get our box wine and go to the Oscars real quick and start acting it up a little bit. I was
Uh-huh.
like, I did like a little Michaela almost. I was like, what? And
Uh-huh.
and like and then Nishal just sat there like extremely quiet. And
Yes.
Jill was like, Nishal, did they say like? And I think Jill or Liza was like, Nishal, who have people told you? He's like, no one. And then Bryce was like super patriotic. He's like, I'm America strong all day, baby. America strong. I'm voting for Nishal. And then Jill and Les were like, yeah, we're voting for Nishal. I'm voting for Nishal. And Nishal's just there like, he's just not saying anything. But the thing is, and then I don't know what Jill's plan was though. Like she was
Yeah.
fine. She blows it up, but then you say, "Oh, you said Jack told me this plan, so why would I then want to defend you? You're obviously
Yeah.
against Bryce." And then you say, "I'm voting for Nishal." So who's that third person that you're going to bring with you to vote with Liza? Either if you're going to vote Nishal out, like you're throwing me under the bus. If you want me to
Right.
split back to Nishal, don't throw me under the bus. So I'm like,
Right.
at this point, she threw herself under the bus. If she hadn't said anything, I just saved her ass, and we would have been in the final four of our tribe. In which case, we have
Mhm.
half the votes, and I can save her again if I need to. And
Mhm.
then you just go and and like not only do you blow up the plan, but you literally choose to throw me under the bus instead of Bryce. Like you could have thrown Bryce under the bus. So I'm like, and then at that point, it's still Liza.
Right.
Bryce is the first to vote. He goes to vote, comes back. Liza's the next to vote. So Liza's gone. And he comes to me and Nishal. He's like, I voted for Jill. We need to get her out of here. So then I'm like, all right,
Right.
well,
Dang.
I'll just vote for Jill. And then
Baby
Nishal votes for Jill
boy.
too. Yeah, baby boy.
He
And
just
then,
switched that vote on his own.
yeah, which was like
Wow,
fine. Like
Bryce.
it kind of needed to happen. But, and then the
Yeah, but
funny
he
thing
he
was,
made the
after
call
it
and he
happened,
told you guys. Yeah.
it's true. And then after that, the funny thing is, like, I was just like, yeah, I don't know what Jill was talking about. She must have been so pissed. She was at the bottom. I was I was like with you the whole time. And then I was like, oh, Bryce came to me while you were voting. He's like, I switched it up. It's from Nishal to Jill because Jill tried to create distrust within our group. And she's like, oh yeah, I totally get it. And she was like backward just
Aw.
like that. And I was like,
Pro.
but I was like, how do you not skeptical of? I mean, obviously you can't.
Yeah.
You have to like even if you're skeptical,
Yeah, you have
you're
to
still gonna be
play
like,
it.
okay, that's great. But it legitimately
Yeah.
felt like she was like, she's like, yeah, I hate Jill, like, or not hate Jill. She's like, I'm so mad Jill did that and tried to break us up. I was like, yeah, like, screw her for lying, and it's like she was just telling the straight
Classic
truth.
Survivor that like as soon as someone is voted out, it's like, oh yeah, it was all them. There was nothing else
Yeah,
going on.
yeah, I mean, also I was just like like right after we swap
Yeah.
immediately, and I was like, Jill, if you could have just not thrown me under the bus, you would have made the swap, and then the thing resets where I can realign with you. It was just
Mhm.
That's
dumb.
what, and
And yeah,
that's
it was
what
tense.
you,
It was tense.
yeah, that's what you said during your voting confessional. I remember you said something like, Jill, what did you do? We
Yeah,
had this, and you were like
yeah. I was like,
so
Jill,
clearly
yeah,
frustrated.
yeah.
Bryce
Um,
was pretty pissed in his voting confessional.
Yeah, I mean Bryce honestly was like Bryce is my dude during the game. Bryce is my guy. Like that was
Mm-hmm.
my core alliance. So I felt like we could run it. He gets paranoid about stuff sometimes, especially he got paranoid with Wendell.
Uh-huh.
Um, but for the most part, we were on the same page, like socially, strategically. Sometimes, but that's kind of like why we worked well together. Like he's very social, obviously, and I was like for him, he gave me credit because he's like you kept me like focused and
Yeah.
stable when I started to like lose my grip a little bit.
Yeah.
It was a good dude.
Speaking of Bryce, you guys go to the tribe swap. Well, I mean, so now comes the next tribe swap. John tells each tribe to split into pairs so that there are 8 pairs total, and you and Bryce are a pair. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was pretty funny. We were on our four, and I obviously wanted to be with Bryce, even though I could have been okay with like Liza or Nishal, but I wanted to be with Bryce. So I
Uh-huh.
was like, oh, I'm standing next to Bryce, and you two are standing next to each other. Should we just do it like that? And it's kind of just like random, I guess, right? And they're like, yeah, sure. And then I was like, all right, sick. I'm
Oh,
with
love it.
Bryce. And then we all draw, we like draw
Tokens.
chips. And this is the
Mm-hmm.
same thing that happened in Survival Challenge. Like when I was a captain for our season, I try to
Yeah.
like feel the chip and see if I feel something
Uh-huh.
and then just
Ooh.
like hope, and it worked. I didn't feel anything in our season of Survival Challenge, but I still got the pick. And then here, there was like a hole in the middle of all the tokens, but it was in the
Uh-huh.
middle of all the tokens. But I felt it and thought it was like the engraving of the number.
Mhm.
So I was like, oh, I got it. And then I pull it out, and it's like the first pick of the draft.
Oh,
And there's
wow.
obviously no way to tell it was what it was. I just
Uh-huh.
randomly felt that
Just
engraving and
lucky.
thought I was like, oh, it must be a number. So I get the first pick of the draft, and I'm already with Bryce.
So, what pair did you pick? Weren't you like picking another
We
pair to
picked,
join you?
yeah, we picked Wendell and Eric.
Oh, of course. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So
we
the
already had
trio
like
is
a
back together.
yeah, we already had a good squad. Then we picked because I definitely wanted like mostly Americans. Then we picked who did we pick? Anyways, I mean our fun. I don't know what the pairings. I think we picked a group from the Green Tribe. Oh, it was Jimmy and Ace
Mhm.
because you had to pick
Hmm.
from all the different tribes. And then with our last pick, we picked Sam and Rudes, and that was
Okay.
our 8. So there was 2 people from my last tribe, 2 people from the first green tribe, and then 4 people from that blue tribe that had voted
Hmm.
Tom out or that Tom left. But
Hmm.
I still had like me, Bryce, Wendell, like, and then Ace and Jimmy. I like both of them too. It was an interesting dynamic, but that was like the tribe we had going that next
Yeah,
night.
it looks interesting because it looks like your tribe has like all the guys except for 2, and
Yeah,
then the other tribe is like all girls except for like 2.
yeah. That's how it shook out.
So you guys
Yeah,
should be
yeah.
comp beast, right?
That's
You
what I'm
should win them
saying. We had a
all.
very
Hey, what
strong
does that
challenge.
mean?
But nothing.
We had quite a strong tribe. I mean, that's what I was trying to pick for, like challenge strength and ability. And I knew Rudes actually was pretty good at the puzzle, so it was good to get her with the last pick.
We'll see how that ends up for them. Don't you worry. I think the
It ended
women
up,
will get the last laugh.
Uh-huh.
but it ended. Well, I mean, this for our season, we actually did really well. We only lost
Mhm.
2 challenges with that
Oh,
tribe.
that's true.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Um.
and one of them we threw. So
Oh,
Oh,
interesting. Little sneak peek of what's to come. Okay, so we've been recording maybe about like an hour, 45 minutes. We've just been like rolling
right.
through. Thanks
Yep.
to everyone who is still listening and enjoying Jack giving us
Yep.
the down low. So we have 2 more days to go through. We have day 4 and day 5. And day 4 is really where I was not able to watch many of the videos of what was going on for day 4. So as we go through this might be a lot of you telling us what happened because
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
I was keeping track of like who was getting voted out, and I was like, what? What? No, what? You know, I was just like totally shocked. I
Yeah.
was like, every time that Steve Pickett was still in, I was like, go Steve,
Yeah,
go.
their
Go,
tribe was
Steve.
crazy over there. Yeah.
Yeah. So All right. So, is there anything you want to share about the night of day 3 with your new tribe? Oh, well,
Yeah,
actually, you
Wendell
have.
snuck me some food. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
no way. There was one challenge right before the night was over.
Yeah, I don't. Oh, it was that labyrinth one, the
Okay.
suspended labyrinth.
Okay.
Yeah, and we
So,
won that.
yeah. Okay. So Wendell has food. What are you talking about?
Yeah, their tribe won a reward that day, and so they like snuck some of the food that they got in, and like Wendell brought me me and Bryce some food, which was cool. So
Oh,
that
that
kind
is
of like
awesome.
helps. Yeah, but that's like definitely like a classic Wendell where he just makes everyone. I was like wondering like, did he just sneak everyone food and tell me this is just for me? Because that I feel like that's something Wendell would do.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, yeah, and then on the new tribe, like me and Bryce are obviously close. We're good with Wendell. We're kind of combining our old yellow team with Wendell's blue team and kind of like looking to pick off the two greens, Ace and Jimmy. Um, and I'm cool with that. Like Wendell has his three little fans who all love him, and they're like sleeping next to him, like praising him. It was a little great. Like Bryce said it too. He was like, I mean, you got all your little super fans and all that, but and then like Ace,
Now,
Jimmy, and I all got along pretty well. Yeah, go ahead.
so on Wendell's previous tribe, they had an alliance that I've seen posted about. What was the name of their alliance again?
It was like the Magnificent Seven or something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
so
The
I know that
Stupid Seven.
so they had a pretty tight thing going on there.
I
On their
mean, okay, kind of. Like I know they got brought together because of Tom like leaving the game. Like that brought them together or some bullshit. But like honestly, I said this on jury when I was with my fellow jurors that were a part of that Magnificent Seven. I was like,
uh
well, what happened if you guys had to vote again? And they're like, our strategy was literally to win, and we did it. So we're such a great alliance. I was like, I was like, I was like, so you're about to vote Sam out, that tribal. Why is she gonna give you like 100% of her trust? And then she probably goes if you lose again. Like that's not that. You're not like the best alliance ever. You're not magnificent. You're like mediocre seven. So I honestly just thought that was so stupid. And the same thing happened in Big Brother Columbus, where there's like this first five alliance.
uh-huh.
Like the first five people in the house, I was the sixth person in the house, but the first five people in this house like came up with a little alliance. It's like that's not that
It's
impressive.
just
Like
silly.
it's just dumb. Like not that like you made it. I'm not gonna make any spoilers, but there's also in the game as of 5 episodes in. You guys all made it deep because you had like a 5-person alliance that took like no curating. Like it's just not that impressive. And yeah, I don't know. I think that's too easy. It's like,
Uh-huh.
look, we have this group of 7 that we're automatically with. Well, this is my alliance, dude. This is a great alliance. I've handpicked this alliance. No bullshit.
Yeah, like the idea of building an alliance based off of arbitrary things, which like it's just like, oh, we were all on the first tribe together, and I mean, of course, you make
Mhm.
alliances based off of your
You gotta
tribes, but
mix it up though. I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
It reminds me of the Ago tribe and how close we were, and but we knew our first boots.
yeah,
So
exactly. Like you would have. Yeah, I mean,
sorry,
that's what I'm
Hannah.
saying.
No, I
Like,
don't think you would have been
I
first.
would have
and
been
also
second
I
maybe.
was, but also with that Magnificent Seven or whatever down the line, I was like, I forget what I was about to say. It was something about um oh, I was like inherently there's like a hierarchy within that 7, so you can't blame the people that are at the bottom for like not wanting to go to 7 with you. And people were telling me like, oh, there was absolutely no hierarchy. Like
What?
two people that were in that after the game, there was no hierarchy. I was like, this is kind of idiotic to be honest with you. Like that's just not how Survivor works. Yeah, and then it was on that note where I was like, so you're telling me there's no hierarchy? And they're like, yes. So I was like, who would have gone if you guys lost? And they were like,
We're
we
going to
weren't thinking about
rocks.
that because yeah, they were like, our plan was to win, and we did that.
Yeah.
And I was
Oh
like,
god.
so you telling me you did not think at all about who you would vote out? And they were like, no. I was like, I don't know how you're on the jury right now.
So at
um,
that point, were you more focused on like the colors of the tribes? Like your tribe has 2 from yellow, 4 from blue, 2 from green, or
um,
was it more individual? You were just
that
making
that
connections.
focus was a good way to isolate the greens to be voted out.
Okay.
because we had that connection with Wendell and Bryce. Wendell and I kind of all planned on going deep together, and then he had his little minions from the Blue Tribe, and like Jimmy's an pretty aggressive player. Like Ace is a sly player. That just was like a pretty sensible way to divvy it up. Um, like yeah, I guess the answer is like I was considering it, and it was a good way to set things up, but it wasn't the main
The end
focus,
all.
especially
Yeah.
because I only had Bryce from my old alliance, my old tribe, so it wasn't like that big of a divide. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Jimmy gets voted out after so Tony is voted out beginning of day 4. We have the next challenge, and then you guys vote Jimmy out of your tribe. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was a pretty straightforward vote, but the tribal itself just got kind of rowdy. I don't know if
Uh-huh.
you guys watched it, but like with Jimmy and Wendell, like Battle of the Titans, I guess, like going at it. Jimmy like praising Wendell, but also telling everyone like vote him out. Like Jimmy's pitch wasn't bad. It was just like partly he called this is a running joke too. He called Bryce like a super fan, and then he called Bryce, and then he
Oh
corrected it to
dear.
Wendell's friend.
Oh no. On purpose, like on accident or on purpose?
Like not like unironically. Like
Okay.
he was his pitch was like we've got Wendell over here who's like a survivor legend, and then my boy Ace who like we're working together, and then the rest of you guys are all a bunch of like super fans, so it makes sense that you want to work with Wendell. And then I look at Bryce, I was like, he just called you a super fan. He was
I
like,
saw this.
excuse
I
me?
remember this.
Yeah, and then Jimmy was like, I'm sorry, you're right. You're not a super fan. You're one of Wendell's friends.
Oh
I was,
my
I was,
god.
I was like, yo, Bryce, he is shading you hard right now. And then, I mean, Jimmy's pitch makes sense, right? Like, obviously, Wendell's a threat, but
Yeah.
Jimmy's like, we're getting to the end game now. It was the final 15. I'm like, this isn't the end game, Jimmy. Like, that's not the end
Yeah.
game. I want my shield. I want Wendell my shield here,
Right.
as do other people.
Right.
Some of it, yeah, like people. He's a good
Ugh.
shield, and he's a good guy.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
so Jimmy went. Then we go on a winning streak.
Uh-huh. So there's um a challenge called Wall of Holes. There's a challenge called Hot Pursuit. Woo, what a challenge. I love those challenges. And Hot Pursuit is the one where do you want to mention anything about Nishal got voted out after Wall of Holes,
Yeah, I was
and he
sad
was one of your
Michelle got
buddies.
voted out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was sad. But I was a little worried when Liza and Nishal went off in a pair that they'd like compare notes and Nishal would be like, yeah, they really wanted you out. And then
Uh-huh.
they'd like turn against us. But I don't think that really happened, so it was cool.
Mhm.
Hot Pursuit is the challenge where the tribe is carrying something, and you have to run and try to catch up. You're running in a circle, and you're trying to catch the tribe in front of you. And if you're able to catch them, then you win. And this is the one where Wendell posted a slow-mo video of
Of Bryce taking a
Bryce.
massive spill.
Oh my gosh, he takes like 10
hilarious.
steps, and he's trying to
Yeah.
gain his balance, but he just nailed
Face plants,
yeah, it was amazing.
I don't think I've seen this.
Yeah, but then we actually we immediately got up and then caught them like 10 seconds later, because their tribe was almost all girls at that point. It was girls and Steve, and our tribe was like me, Wendell, Bryce, like fast people.
Yeah.
And so like, we also could carry the buckets, which were pretty heavy. It was like a 40-pound bucket.
Yeah,
So they got tired quickly,
Yeah.
and they just kind of just like stopped running, and it was sad, but it was not sad because we won.
Yeah.
That's true.
Victoria
That's the
is
first
voted
challenge.
out. Yeah.
Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
That's like maybe of all the challenges I've ever done, like that's like the challenge that walking in, I probably felt the most confident that I was gonna win.
Okay,
It was
so-
nice.
Question. So you've done a lot of live games in the States. Now doing challenges in South Africa, is it like really hot? Like, did that affect any of your
Ooh,
challenge
mhm.
performance, or is it?
It wasn't too bad. Like it was hot, but I don't think it really inhibited much of the challenge performance. But
Okay.
that's like a fair question.
Sure.
And you're like kind of, are you guys like on sand a lot? Is that a weird question to ask?
No,
Is it
there was
dirt?
no sand. It was
Okay.
like it was like dirt and like short.
Oh,
It was
not
like a lot of
sand,
just short
yeah.
grass. Short grass.
Yeah, it was like a very dusty looking. Does
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
make
yeah.
sense?
Yeah, it was dusty. Yeah, the ground itself was like mostly like pretty short grass, and then it was
Okay.
probably just like super dusty just because we were running and like kicking up a
Yeah.
bunch of the dry dirt. But
While we're on the topic, did you have run-ins with a lot of wild animals or no?
no, not really.
No,
No, which
No
was
black
good.
mamas.
No,
nothing.
I didn't see any snakes, which was
We saw lots of animal skulls that they would point out to us on
Yeah.
like the live feeds.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was good,
The
but I didn't see any.
another American fan is voted out. Victoria was voted out of that tribal council.
Yeah, well, she apparently Liza was gonna get voted out, and then like they were all I saw from over by our holding area, they were all like crying their eyes out, and then I think Victoria, with an idol, basically, and let me say, Victoria got that idol because Tony gave it to her after she got voted out, which was very
Oh,
suspect.
interesting.
Oh,
Yeah.
odd.
Yeah. Like Tony got voted out, he immediately just like stood up, gave her idol to Victoria, and left, which I don't think is really in the rules, but
Yeah.
I think John
I've
just let it
always
play.
wondered about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, but anyways, Victoria basically like takes the fall for her, kind of like what Tom did, except probably
Victoria
more
did that for
genuine.
Sam. Oh, for Liza, you
No,
mean?
for Liza, yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
I
And I
didn't
think
watch that tribal
Victoria kind of
council.
regretted it immediately. Like I think
Oof.
Victoria definitely had regrets about it.
Yeah.
But
It's just like
yeah,
you're
that's kind
in
of
the
what happened.
moment. Like we've all played survival challenge. Like it is. I find it very emotional, and you find yourself making these decisions. You know, you're only like 4 days in, but you're making those decisions like very emotionally. So
Yeah, no,
I
very
get
true.
it. The next
Yeah,
challenge is
yeah.
yeah. Go ahead, Evan.
Do we know what happened to her idol? Did she go out with her
She
idol?
gave it to Steve,
Oh, okay.
which is how Steve
Oh, I did hear
managed
he
to
had.
survive a little bit more. Yeah,
I-
but he fucked that up too.
Yes.
Next challenge is blow darts.
Oh yeah, that was a clutch win. I thought we were gonna lose that one because Ramona was like a sniper. That's where the joke came in. You could see that I was doing it in a bunch of like tribal councils, like shooting
Yeah.
blow darts at people. It was a little bit overplayed, honestly. But
I definitely picked up on that.
yeah, but that was a fun challenge. Yeah, and then we won last second.
Woo.
Mhm.
I
And then
believe.
Steve.
Yeah, go ahead, Evan.
I think
Steve went-
Liza. Did Steve go or did Liza
Steve
go?
went home, I think. It's
With the
on-
idol in his pocket.
Which I'm glad
Foolish.
he was not on your tribe, because if he was on your tribe, I would end this call right now. If you cast a vote against Steve, it would be over. I could
mean,
never talk to you again.
Fair.
Steve was like the fan favorite, at least for me, but I think a lot
Uh-huh.
of us in the States had
Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
just-
Steve was a solid enough player.
Yeah.
I don't know. He told me
didn't
something like
yeah.
after the game. No, he probably should have, but
Uh-huh.
he told me something like after I don't know. Steve like definitely knows what's up, but I think it's almost like he relies too much on like what he knows rather than just like going with his gut or like playing
Oh, I
like
see what
just
you mean.
like he was telling me and like Amanda after the game about how he learned to like how he can like tell if someone's lying based on like how their eyes look, like how
Mhm.
their pupils look, and I was
Uh-huh.
like, that's just not true.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that's true.
Ah.
But Steve was solid. Like I didn't play with him on any of the tribes besides our original one that didn't have any vote outs, but
Yeah.
he was
Mhm.
decent.
Mhm.
Good guy though. Love Steve.
I know, right?
So the next challenge is instant insanity, which I think that one is the colored blocks that you have
Yeah.
to arrange
Yeah.
into a certain order.
Mhm.
And you guys win that again.
Mhm. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah,
Apparently-
how did that go?
Apparently that was cool because we went out and like blindfolded too. Like I was running blindfolded
Okay.
to get the blocks, and then
Oh,
we did
dear.
that. But there was a couple funny moments. Like Ramona ripped one of the blocks out of someone's hands when she went to pick it up, and then apparently the other tribe, on like their first stack, just of getting the blocks up, got it right, and then but then they started working on it.
No.
So obviously, and I don't even know how. I'm not sure if that's like completely true, but people told me like Linda and Karen Townsend told me they had it right and that they just switched it up.
Wow.
I don't
Oh, that
know
one
what the odds
hurts.
of that are. That's pretty crazy.
Wow.
But- Yeah, but it was nice to win.
Yes. So Liza gets the boot in this one.
Yep.
So
Who-
sounds pretty straightforward.
And that's the one that Victoria like took herself out so that Liza could stay in, and that was only for 2 more votes. She did stay in.
Yeah.
But this is probably getting to the point that you guys are like, the merge has to be happening like right
Yeah,
now.
because at that point there's 10 people left,
Yeah.
and I'm like, that's what I'm saying. I was like, John, you're not doing this to me again, are you? Like,
Oh.
and I realized those 3 girls on the other tribe, like, obviously are super tight. It was Amanda, Shona, and Ramona.
Mhm.
I guess your last name, if your name ends in like NA, then you're just super close. But
Well, I am Hannah, so I need to align with those people.
yeah, um, yeah, uh, and then yeah, so we're like, I mean, and then we have another challenge at the final 10, and if their tribe loses, they're voting one of their 3 out, and I can tell they're a tight 3. But I'm
Brutal.
like, this one was like another type of like throwing things at like balloons or something, or targets. It
Sling
wasn't blow
shooter?
darts, but it was something similar. Yeah, it was a slingshot one,
Mhm.
and it was like it was kind of weird. Like, I was trying to play, but I think Wendell and his like little minions of the Magnificent Seven had agreed like they wanted to keep those 3 because those 3 on the other tribe were from their 7. And then to me,
Oh.
so
That's gonna
I
come
was
back
like,
and bite him.
Wendell's like, okay, like me, Bryce, and basically he was pushing for me, him, and Bryce to sit out. I was like, what? I was like, we're gonna let these like people, like, we're gonna let like Sam carry us to a W here and like slingshot, and we're gonna and like Rudes, Eric, and Sam are gonna dominate this challenge for us. I was so confused, and he
Uh-huh.
was like, nah, but he nudged me. He was like, dude, just sit out. And he's like, and I was like, oh,
Dang.
we're throwing it so we could keep Ramona, which I was like, cool with. I didn't realize they had their whole 7. Um,
Wendell.
plus there was some conflict actually going on with Bryce and Wendell at that point.
Okay.
So I thought that he wanted us to sit out so we could talk and like figure everything out, which we did because like during the challenge, Bryce was pissed that Wendell seemed super loyal to also
Yeah.
Ace was in that challenge playing. And then Bryce was pissed that Wendell seemed super duper loyal to like Rudes and stuff. And
Yeah.
Bryce felt like he was kind of the afterthought, and that
Uh-huh.
Bryce was, or that like Wendell, and then because Bryce thought that like Rudes and stuff wanted Bryce out, which they kind
Uh-huh.
of did. They would have just done what Wendell said at that point, but Bryce was worried that Wendell didn't have like that his true loyalty wasn't to him. Um, which I don't think it was true, but it was like logical for Bryce to like think that might be like that might be the
Yeah.
case. And then
Yeah.
Wendell was like also talking to me. He was like, dude, I don't know how to like I feel about this game right now. Like, Tom's gone, like a lot of the big dogs are gone, and I would feel like kind of weird just like running through a bunch of like newbies. And I told him like, dude, I want to like compete with you.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I think partly set me apart from a lot of the other fans. Partly like I mean my gameplay was pretty solid and like I'm physical, but I told him like I was like, let's get to the final 5 together and then we could battle it out. I don't want it to be
Mhm.
like, oh, I get to final 5 and you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna bail and let Jack win. Like, that would be stupid. The
Yeah.
other fans, especially with Wendell, were kind of like, obviously they weren't saying like, oh, can we get to the end and then you just bail, but I feel like they weren't against it. Like, if
Yeah.
that's what happened, then that they weren't against it. I wanted to just
Right.
compete, and so I kind of just tried to like talk Wendell up because I didn't want him to like bow out of the game or something really stupid. I didn't want it, and I was also like, dude, if I win, I don't want to have like I want to win and be like, I beat Wendell. He was going
Yeah.
100%. Like, he won Survivor. I don't want to be like,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
He,
like Wendell let me win. Like,
yeah.
that would be stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's
exactly.
kind of what the conversation was. Bryce was kind of freaking out. I was calming Bryce down a little bit. And we lose the challenge. Yeah. I
And
didn't
here
realize like
come yeah.
yeah.
Here
I didn't
comes
realize that like Sam. Oh, my bad, my bad. Go ahead.
Go ahead, go ahead. What were you about to say about
Okay.
Sam?
I didn't realize that like Sam, Rudes, and Eric were also consciously throwing the challenge to get their entire 3. So like when they were really really bad at the slingshots, I just thought like that was them like not being good at challenges, but in reality they were like kind of throwing it. So like that's to their credit that they weren't actually just atrocious at that challenge. They were throwing it too for their
And
own
so
reason.
here comes Tribal Council, and here comes my drop your buff moment from Survival Challenge South Africa. And drop your buff moment is when your jaw hits the floor and you are totally astonished when I find out later that Wendell has been idled out of the game by none other than Ace. And I know Ace from watching from watching Survivor South Africa Philippines. Ace is iconic from that season for digging in the sand trying to find an idol because he had a clue that told him that he had an idol and that there was an idol in the sand. So he spent the hours leading up to a tribal council once just digging and digging and digging in the sand. So when I saw that that he found an idol, played it, saved himself, I said, there you go.
Yeah, that
He
was
finally found that
crazy. And
idol.
after we lost the challenge, he was like, we all circled up and he was basically like, is it me? And he was getting all sad. And someone was like,
Wow.
yeah, like at this point, I think it's you. And we all like gave him a hug and like a high five. And he was like on the verge of
Ace.
tears. He was
No,
so
he
sly.
That
didn't.
He was
is
so
so
sly.
good.
And then, yeah, he was like super sad all of tribal. And then, yeah, boom, he idles out Wendell with the
Wow.
soul vote for Wendell. It was, and I like during that I was having a drop your buff moment. Like my
Yeah.
jaw was on the floor.
I
was
think
like,
that was all of our drop your buff
yeah,
moments.
I was like, holy smokes! And it wasn't the worst case scenario. Well, I wanted Wendell, but Bryce and I had a pretty good rapport with Ace, much better than Ace. Like Ace, I knew Ace would feel much better, even though we had just voted for him. I knew Ace felt much better about me and Bryce than he did about like Rudes and Eric and Sam. So I knew I could still utilize that connection at the merge, which at that point I was hoping was then because it was 9 people.
And guess
Crazy that
what?
window went out like that.
Yeah, and then baby boy, you make the
Yeah.
merge.
Yeah, the actual drop your buff
Yes.
moment. That was
You did
great.
it. You did it.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. It was a really good feeling. Yeah, it was great.
The final 9.
Yes, we end day 4 with the merge, and we have one individual immunity challenge that Ramona takes it away. Is this the one where you are pulling 2 bars?
Yeah, you could also push though. That's actually the more effective strategy is to push
Oh,
them
okay.
in. Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Nice to know. Nice to know. All right, so
Mhm.
all right, so it's the merge.
Mhm.
Do you want to take
So
a
you
breather
go
at all
back.
before we talk about the merge? Are you
Oh,
doing
I mean,
yeah.
I'm
good?
ready to dive in for now. Yeah.
All
I'm
right, let's
ready.
do this.
So-
Go ahead, Evan. Take it away.
Do you go back to the USA camp still?
Yeah,
So you-
but what we did, we had that challenge, and then we had a merge feast,
Okay.
and then we went back to camp.
So you've just been stuck
that
there
point-
the entire time.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, in that tribe with like Wendell and stuff that I was just on was also at the USA
Yeah.
camp. So it was a 4-night game, and there was a swap or like merge before every different night, and I was at the same camp all the time.
What was that night like? Was it you knew who had immunity, so was it
Yeah,
scrambling?
I was doing a lot of thinking, obviously a lot of connecting. There was like a bit of like emotional time around the campfire where like people were like opening up. Some people cried.
Wow.
So
Do you want
like
to tell any bit about
yeah.
that, or is that too deep?
I don't know, just people like we did something where I think like Bryce and Ramona kind of introduced it. We talked about like something like we were like what was our proudest moment so far of the game or something, and like
Aw, yeah.
people were saying like yeah. So it got everyone felt pretty close. Even like obviously we knew the game was on, but it was all good vibes in the camp.
Yeah.
I was thinking a lot about my end game. I
Mhm.
was trying to secure some connections. I knew Ace's name was on the table. I knew my name was, being floated around a little bit. I found that out more the next morning. We were looking to take out obviously one of the girls from the other tribe, either like Amanda or Shona, because we didn't want Ramona to go.
Mhm.
So that was my plan. I was just trying to figure out how do I get the numbers in order to get Amanda or Shona out. A little do I know there's this whole Magnificent Seven that's just against like me, Bryce, and Ace. But
Ooh.
at that point there's 6 because they had to vote out. Oh, because
Okay.
Wendell went.
Wendell.
Wendell lost.
Because Wendell went. Yeah.
Wow. So out of
Um,
the magnificent 7, or as you call them, the mediocre 7, 6
Yeah.
of them made it to the merge.
Yeah.
Out of
Granted,
9 people.
granted, like the 3 other fans from that 7 on my tribe went to 3 pre-merge tribal councils. There's 15 challenges and they went to 3 tribals. The first one, Tom quit. The second one's a very straightforward Jimmy vote, and then the third one, Wendell gets idled out.
Wow.
Like, not to like, and obviously like Shona, Ramona, and Amanda did a great job surviving in that new tribe. But the
Yeah.
ones on the magnificent portion from my tribe, like they were solid players, but they didn't really go to any tribals.
Yeah.
So it was a
Mhm.
pretty easy. Because even though Amanda and Shona and Ramona went to all those consecutive tribals with their new tribe, coming into the merge, Bryce and I we're still tied for the most tribal councils attended because of all the ones we went to at the start, while they
Yeah.
really didn't go to any. So,
Exactly.
especially if you consider Tom quitting as like not really a tribal,
Yeah.
or if you consider Victoria quitting as not really a tribal, then like Bryce and I were still going to the most tribals. So yeah.
So what?
But I mean, you're
yeah.
right. Credit to them for getting
Yeah.
there as that 6. Like that's still impressive.
They said that their strategy was to win challenges, so and
They
that's what they
did.
did.
Maybe that's where I've been going wrong. I don't even think about winning the challenges. I think
Yeah,
about
yeah.
alliances and stuff. Yeah.
That's
Maybe
what you
someone
gotta
should
do,
do that on
Jack.
Survivor. Just be like, yeah,
Just win all the
need like,
challenges.
yeah, Mike. I think that's what Mike Holloway did. He's like, I don't have a strat. I'm just gonna win a challenge, and he just does it. Best player ever.
So in the merge, do you feel like you had a say in the votes, or at this point was it more like somebody was telling you?
No, I had a say, and the night before there was, like I said, it was a little bit more mellow, like good bonding. I felt like things were lining up pretty well to take out Shona or Amanda. And then in the morning, I hear like my name starting to get tossed around a little bit. So for me, I had a say in that with my core people like Bryce and then kind of Ace at that point. We were figuring things out, and then obviously I was working really hard to pull in, Shona, or not Shona. I'm sorry, Sam, Rudes, Eric, because that's kind of who I saw as the swing votes at that point. So I was like working on those 3, all like spending a ton of time working on them to make sure that they were down to vote for Shona or Amanda instead of for me or Ace. Because I think the plan from like Shona and Amanda's plan from their side was that they wanted to like their 6 to split 3 votes on me, 3 votes on Ace, and then whatever happens, and then maybe like they think Bryce would like come with them. I don't even know. And then I think I would be the one that they vote out over Ace. But because I caught wind of this, and like Rudes and stuff were telling me, and I was working pretty closely with Rudes. I was working closely with her of any of the other fans. Because they were giving me all this information, and it seemed like they were literally telling me to my face like they want to vote for you. The plan right now is that we're splitting it on you, and we're just going along with it because that's what we have to do. Because they were like so honest about it, I kind of knew that they were with me.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like I would be if I'm like that makes me feel more secure than someone potentially just being like, oh yeah, we're good, we're voting her. They don't have a plan. They're just gonna vote someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of figured I was good. I was still really nervous, obviously. But yeah, we go to tribal, and there's still a lot of scrambling too. Like on the hill on the way down though to tribal, the way it's segmented out though was like kind of like the 5. And then I learned that Eric wasn't really with us. He still was like loyal to Amanda and Shona for some reason, but Rudes and Sam were saying that they were gonna come with us. So like on the walk down to tribal and stuff, like Bryce and I and like or Rudes and like Sam would come to like me and Bryce and like Ace, and we were having a conversation, re-solidifying everything. They weren't really having a conversation with Shona and Amanda, so that's kind of emphasized that I felt like I was pretty good because I was the one they were talking to on the way to tribal instead of
Interesting. So like just right now, just hearing you talk about that, I'm like wondering what their strategy was with, giving you all that information, and filling you guys in because they wanted to make that bond stronger. Like they had that in their game plan going to the end, I guess.
I think at that point, and I give Rudes a lot of the credit for steering that group of the other 3 fans, and I give Sam credit in this instance too. Like Rudes and Sam, I think came together and made a decision that they'd rather go with me and Bryce, and then Eric too by proxy, even though he wasn't voting with us at that point. Like Sam, Rudes, and Eric had a tight 3 that I could sense. Partly like by necessity because at that point they really hadn't been in that many tribals. they were the only fans beside myself at the merge, and I think they kind of realized they would get crushed by myself or any of the survivors at a final tribal council. Or at least that's the narrative I wanted them to think. Other
Uh-huh.
than I wanted them to think that the survivors would crush any of the four of us if we made it
Uh-huh.
deep with them, so that us four should stick together.
Okay.
And I always kind of like pushed that I would be their fourth or whatever.
Uh-huh.
I was like, I was kind of like, let's get to four with this group and then play from there. I wasn't
Yeah.
like, yeah, after we get to four, we'll take out Eric. And
Yeah.
I think they like that. And I think to Rudes, who is a pretty good strategist, I think that was a lot more appealing to have make that or those early moves at the merge and really carve her own path to the end rather than just go
Yeah.
with this final six and then just play it from there.
Right.
Um, so I give her credit. I think it was the right. I mean, it's a little biased, but I think it was the right move. And obviously, Amanda goes home there. I get 2 votes, and Bryce gets 2 votes because
Okay.
Amanda, Ramona, Shona, and Eric split votes on us. So it's 5-2-2. And then
Ooh.
after that, it was things were like a little tense. I mean, Shona especially, and like Ramona a little bit too. After and then in subsequent tribal councils, especially the next tribal council,
Mm-hmm.
were like basically saying that it was like really foolish of the other fans to do that, and I came to their defense a lot, and yeah, I like Shona was basically saying it was dumb of them to do that and that they had it made if they went with that group, and I was basically saying, look, you would have voted Sam out at that tribal that Tom went home, and I know
Mm-hmm.
things are different now, but you still wrote her name
Yeah.
down. You wrote her name down, and then Tom quit. You like, and then the same thing. Rudes had thought Wendell had told Rudes and Sam that he thought the vote was getting split onto them at that tribal where Tom went home, and so Rudes told me that. So like from what I knew and what Rudes knew, if Tom hadn't gone home, the votes would have been split on Sam and Rudes. And so I was like, at that final 8 tribal, not to jump ahead too much,
Uh-huh.
Shona was like, you had it made with us, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, look, from their perspective, or this might have actually been at the final 9 tribal where, because I was fighting for myself a little bit. I was like, obviously you guys are a tight 3. You guys just survived this tribe of 8 getting whittled down to 3, and you're the 3 people that are left from it. You guys are obviously tight. If Tom hadn't gone home, you guys would have split the vote on Sam and Rudes. So you've already written their name down. I've never written their name down. And now I was like, and then now you're coming after me, Ace and Bryce. So obviously it makes sense for the 5 of us to get together and vote together. And they were like, oh, it's water on the bridge. I was like, well, there's no bridge with me to begin with because I've never voted for them. Like the bridge is dry as hell. There's no water there. And so that's kind of what my defense for it was.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't really I love Shona. Shona's like so like amazing, but I know she was frustrated that that vote didn't go her way. So I did feel
Mhm.
bad because I might have been a little bit too like aggressive with my
Mhm.
spiel, considering especially I was at that point safe. But I was like, why are you ragging on them for making a decision that it like isn't beneficial to you, but it can still benefit them?
Looking back on that, do you regret that at all, or were you fine with that?
Do I
What are you
regret saying
thinking?
that?
Yeah.
Do I regret saying that? No, I don't. I regret maybe the intensity of some of it, but at the same time, like I did end up apologizing and I'm glad I apologized, and
Mhm.
I'd rather like I think maybe I floundered a little bit by being a little bit too aggressive with it, but I think everyone knew it wasn't personal. And then in that case, I'd rather do a little bit too much than like not fight for myself hard enough and then go home because of that. So
Mhm.
I'd rather just like make arguments and like be entertaining from like a meta standpoint than to just like not say anything.
Sure.
So I don't really regret that. Um, yeah, I guess where are we not at this point? Like
So I
final 8
guess
So I think
challenge.
Amanda has gone,
Yep.
and now
yeah.
we're kind of on the Shona
Yeah, we're at
boo.
the touchy subjects challenge, which is next.
Yes.
I get voted most likely to go home next, which was not
Aw.
good because I thought my plan, and I had this plan honestly set up going into the day. So Amanda going out first was the first check in the
Uh-huh.
box. And then I wanted Shona out next,
Okay.
and
Check.
so I thought people would kind of be on that. But yeah, but at that point, at the touchy subjects challenge, that hadn't happened yet. I was
Oh,
voted
gotcha.
most likely to be voted out next. I got my balloons popped first. I was the first person out of the challenge.
Not
I was
looking
like worried,
good.
but I was also like, does it make sense for Rudes and Sam to flip back now? I don't know if that would make sense. Like we just voted together. I've never voted against you. You just betrayed them Like, why would it make sense for you to go back to them like when there's distrust there? We've trusted each other the whole game, and so that's kind of like what I rested on and what I pitched going into the tribal, and ultimately, yeah, Shono went home, and I think Eric still might have voted with the girls from the other tribe. I don't know what Eric was doing. He was not very like he just wasn't super strategic to me, especially in the morning. Like your closest allies, Rudes and Sam, are coming to join me, and you're just gonna vote with the girls because you promised them like this Magnificent Seven thing. Doesn't make
Mm.
sense. Like, and
Mhm.
where do you think you fit in with those three girls? Like, you think Ramona, Shona, or
Amanda.
Amanda are gonna value you and their alliance over like the fans? Like, to me, like the whole time I was obviously working with Bryce, but at the end of the day, I wanted to go the end was with fans, partly because we're fans, partly because they're easier to beat. And
Mhm.
so I remember telling Eric that morning, I really pledged like loyalty to him. I offered him I was like, you don't have to like reciprocate this, but I could see myself going in the final two with you. Like, I'll bring you even if you don't want to bring me. And he seemed on board. And then I hear like 10 minutes later that he's not even going to vote with me. I was like,
Dang.
yeah, you just like I just offered you a final two, which obviously you
Mhm.
don't know if I'm being genuine,
Mhm.
but that's got to be more appealing than going with these three girls that are so tight. So
Yeah. Did he know that that their ship was sinking? Did he know that they were getting voted out?
I think so. I'm sure
Mhm.
he kind of knew. I just
Mhm.
don't know if he cared. Like,
Yeah.
which was dumb. That's why I was saying he could have come on board with us, and then I think the next time with the Shona vote, he also just votes against me because I catch votes at the first tribal and I catch votes at the second tribal too. So
Oh, so your name was on the board and there was
Yeah.
I
no
didn't
going
catch a
back from
single
that.
vote before the merge, and then at every vote I attended after the merge, I got votes.
That's why I'm like
Which,
wondering, like, like I asked you, like, if you regretted like speaking up so much at the first tribal. I mean, you got votes at the first tribal, like so the next tribal council,
well,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I think my name. So I caught votes at the first. I didn't have any votes the whole game before the merge. Then I got votes at all of the tribal councils I attended after the merge, and like like sure maybe part of it and part of the reason it recurred was because I defended myself so adamantly. But I think the reason I didn't defend myself like that until my name had already been tossed out there, and I think that was because a lot of the survivors, especially the ones that weren't on my side of the coin, like Shona and Amanda, just saw me as
Mhm.
like the most threatening
Mhm.
person in the opposition. Like, they weren't going to vote for Bryce because Ramona wouldn't want to vote for Bryce, and then Ace was under the radar at that point, and then
Right.
like at that point, Rudes and Sam and Eric are not your biggest targets. So they look at me, they think I can win challenges. Like, I'm pretty social, like I'm pretty strategic. So I just think I was and it's the final nine. So at that point, you already do have to look to take out threats. So that's why I think like my name was coming up a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, this is kind of like jumping ahead to you getting voted out and retrospective and whatever, but we're talking about it right now, so here we go. So that's
Yeah,
like what it comes
yeah. I mean
down to
the
with
next vote
you.
out is me. Yeah, the next vote out is me getting voted out, the final seven. So I guess we're getting right in it.
Yeah, so what's a young guy like you supposed to do when you're the threat? You tried to get the threats around you. You tried
Hmm.
to make the bonds with the fans and
Hmm.
you were doing it and then it just like, the strategic challenge good, that's not a phrase. The challenge people,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
strategic people, like it's just, what were you supposed to do?
yeah.
What went wrong?
That's something I've tried to develop my
Over
strategy
all
around
these
over
games.
time. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Big Brother Columbus was where it's most successful because there I can throw challenges, I could lie my ass off, and if I'm never winning challenges, I don't really have to prove my loyalty. And I can just diminish myself as a threat. If I'm not winning
Mhm.
challenges, I'm not as big a threat.
Mhm.
In Battle of the Bush, which is why I think this was one of my more successful games, is because there's just more people around me that can be perceived as threats. Like, and the
Mhm.
Survival Challenge 2018 too was pretty good for this.
Mhm.
Um, but and that's why like I think on the real show that would actually help my game because you have people out there that are like models, that are athletes, that are
Mhm.
like rocket scientists. At that point, I'm not at the top of the totem pole, and I could pull my meat shield strategy off pretty effectively. If there was
Yeah.
only like one other person in the whole game that could serve as my meat shield, it's going to be pretty tough to do. And if my meat shield Wendell gets idled out at an inopportune time, then that
Yeah.
does. Because if I come in the merge with Wendell, Sure, he has that alliance as part of the Magnificent Seven, but he's obviously a bigger threat than I am. If
Yeah.
Wendell's not there, then I might be the biggest threat, even though I'm a fan. Even though and then also I haven't really won any challenges. I've just been like social, and I guess I've navigated strategically, but I wasn't doing any like scheming too hard. But it was
Right.
just unlucky. But also Final Seven, I got idled out. I wasn't,
It's
and that's
true.
part of the game, but it wasn't the majority of people voting me out. I was in a pretty good position,
Uh-huh.
and obviously you could do a lot of what ifs, but the plan I had in my head was for that vote, I wanted to like do a fake split and then flip my vote to Ramona, take out
Uh-huh.
Ramona. That's what would have happened if there's no idol. And then just from bouncing ideas off people, had at that final six, what I wanted to do was go to the fans. It would have been like a final four of the fans, right? Me,
Okay.
Rude, Eric, and Sam, and
I
then
think they would have
split the
done it.
vote. Yeah, split the vote on Bryce and then Ace, and then I would flip back
Your
to Ace and
boys.
Bryce, and then vote out Rudes. And then I felt like at
Wow.
that point, the other fans might have no choice but to bring me to their final three because they think they can't beat any of the survivors, even though they wouldn't beat me. And then I probably get to like the final
Dang.
three,
You have
and
them
then I still
mapped
have
Yeah.
out.
Bryce. Yeah. So if I don't get, obviously there's a ton of what ifs. Bryce
Yeah.
would have been
Right.
pissed that I voted out Ramona. You
Uh,
know, the fans would have been pissed that I flipped to, and then I also Rude said that she thinks they would have split the vote at that final six with me. So I should have been able to get the move to go off. But after that, like a lot of people were probably pissed at me. But maybe I win some challenges. You know, who knows? But
right.
that was my plan.
So at this tribal, Bryce played his
Yeah.
idol on Ramona.
Yeah.
Did he know that by doing that,
No.
it would have probably
No,
been
he had no
you?
idea, and that's why it's so crazy.
Oh, baby
It's kind of like a
boy.
Tyson situation,
Mm-hmm.
but almost to like another level where the person playing the idol was actually like my closest ally. Because like when Russell did that to Tyson, he got it so that he could play the idol and then take out Tyson. When this happened, Bryce didn't even want me out. I was still his closest ally. What happened was just to run through the vote. This
Does
was a really
he
fascinating
regret
vote.
that? Maybe you can speak to that.
I don't think he regrets it. I think he was like kind of pissed at me that I didn't go to his plan. But I was
Yes.
like,
Okay.
it's a smart. So
He
the
was smart
plan
dad.
was, yeah, we had our five. It was everyone but Ramona and Eric, and our five wanted to split the votes on Ramona and Eric. But Bryce really, really, really did not want Ramona out. He wanted Eric
Uh-huh.
out, and
Uh-huh.
but Rudes and Sam really, really did not want Eric out. They wanted
Uh-huh.
Ramona out.
Okay.
So I was like, I went to Rudes and Sam. And I was like, look, let's just pretend we're putting 3 votes on Eric and 2 votes on Ramona, and then I'm gonna flip my vote and vote out Ramona. And that's how I got them to like kind of all be cool with the split. So it was like supposed to be
Ooh.
me, Ace, and Bryce voting Eric, and then the 2 girls voting
Mhm.
Ramona.
Mhm.
And so I do that, and then but the thing is, Ace had the same idea as me, but we both wanted to be secret about it, and so we didn't tell each other. So
No.
we both voted Ramona instead of Eric, which completely flunked the split. And then Rudes was very smart. This was very smart of her. She she was the one that like Ace and I both came to tell her about this plan, and she realized if there's 4 votes on Ramona and an idol is played, then it just takes the 2 votes of Eric and Ramona to take someone out.
Yes.
Right.
So she told Eric, she was like, vote for Bryce or Jack. Like, just trust me, whatever your choice. Because I think she knew Ramona was voting for me, but even if Eric then votes Bryce, it's still like 1-1. I don't even know.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
told them to like, because obviously if you're getting your votes split on, and you think, oh, it's if Eric and Ramona are just like all alone and isolated, they're like, yeah, I probably have to vote for you because they're splitting it on us. But by Rude's telling them to like stay strong and vote together, that then put the 2 votes on me, which
Mhm.
when the idol was then played, I go home. But to be honest, even if the split is proper, I'm not sure. But if it then becomes me versus Eric, and then the other 5 people vote on who to keep, there's a pretty good chance I then get voted out as like the alternate split.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm not. It was really the idol that screwed me, not the split. Because I think obviously Bryce keeps me over Eric. Obviously Ace keeps me over Eric. But Ramona, I think Sam and Rudes would keep Eric over me. And then unless Bryce convinces Ramona to keep me, and like I would probably work to convince her of that to keep me too, even though I just voted for her, then she's gonna vote me out too, and I probably still go. But yeah, it's just the idol that screwed me. And here's the dumbest part. This was the part that I was kicking myself for. Bryce told me he had the idol, and he said he would play it for me when I wanted it. I was considering asking him for it at the final 9, but we realized we didn't need it. But I didn't realize that the idols in this game expired at the final 7.
Oh,
So if I had known that,
and
I
that's
don't
why
know
he
if this
played
like
it.
should have been. Yeah, well, I don't think Bryce realized either until Ace told him just before tribal, and so that's partly. I think Bryce partly knew something might be afoot though, because I think he was gonna play it for her
Oh,
anyways. But if I had
yeah.
known that they expired at 7, I would have known he would play it for
Mhm.
Ramona, and then I wouldn't have voted for Ramona. And
Oh
so
my
we could have
Interesting.
switched. We could have
gosh.
switched up the.
And it was
Yeah.
interesting to hear that Bryce playing as idol for Ramona, like Bryce could have been the one that got the boot
Nah,
there if they
he
would
was
have.
all right because Ramona was
No?
covering his back.
Okay.
I think
Yeah,
that's
because I
the thing.
guess
Ramona and
Eric and
Bryce really had
Ramona.
each other's back.
That's true.
So Bryce
So it
was like
was you
completely
all
anti.
along.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
tough, but it's. I mean, I got idled out. Like that sucks, but I was in a pretty good spot. Like it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Made it deep in the.
Real
It
deep.
was got no complaints overall. So.
Yeah. So you get you're voted out. Who are you rooting for to make it to the end
Bryce
and win?
definitely.
Yep.
Um, really anyone but the fans. Their gameplay was pretty boring. So yeah, Bryce, Ace, Ramona. Those were the only 3 survivors left at that point. So I really
Oh,
wanted Bryce, obviously. But
yeah. Yeah, so Bryce makes it pretty far without you. He makes it 2 more tribals before
final 4.
yeah,
Yeah.
before he gets voted out. Yeah, is there anything you want to say about the next couple tribals before we get to final tribal?
Not really. I think the Ramona one was interesting because like when she got heat stroke. I don't know if you guys heard that much about this, but she
Mm-mm.
got heat stroke. So
Mm-mm.
it was a weird situation. She had to be like medically removed from the game according to like
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Jill,
Mm-hmm.
but
Oh.
she wanted to be like voted out, not like pulled. And so it was such a weird. Like Ramona won that necklace. Then
Really?
yeah, she won the necklace. Then she well, partly first of all, she wanted to give it to Bryce, but she didn't realize you could transfer the necklace at at the start of the tribal. She gave it to him when it was immunity idol time, and it was like, no, you
Oh.
can't do that. But then the production kind of fucked up, and we're just like, and then John was like, when they were discussing it, John was like, oh, it wouldn't matter like that you transfer the necklace. So that cued off the fans that they were gonna get voted out or something like that, and then. But then they were like, okay, we're just gonna give the necklace to Bryce and then re-vote. They didn't give the Ramona the option. So basically, Ramona thought that she wouldn't catch votes and then she could give Bryce the necklace. But then they like made her give him the necklace and then re-vote. So now she was vulnerable. But also the whole time she was gonna have to leave anyways.
Yeah.
But
It
Yeah.
is wonky.
Bryce desperately wanted Ace to go to Rocks so that they could take out a fan via Rocks, and then
What?
Ramona gets medevaced, and then it's the final 4. And then Bryce was like pissed at Ace that he didn't like they voted when they voted it was 3-3, and then on the revote Ace flipped, and Bryce like even after the game was pissed that Ace flipped. I was like, Bryce, you want Ace to have a 33% chance of going home on Rocks when Ramona's going home anyways? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Granted, maybe it would have been smart for Ace to do that because that's a 2/3 chance of fan goes home. And once you're at that final 5 with the 3 fans, those 3 were going to the final 3, so you're kind of screwed. So
Wow.
that's why the
Interesting.
final 6 was kind of crazy, and but yeah, once they got to final 5 in that's why it was a shame that she got medevaced essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also,
it really-
meanwhile, as the jury, we were not aware that she was supposed to be getting pulled. So I was like, John, you're
What is
screwing
going
up the
on?
rules, dude. Like, you totally just messed up the rules. Like, Rudes was gonna go home.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, what's going on? And then after they told us, I was like, I mean, all right,
Meh.
good, because otherwise you completely screwed up the game.
Trust the
But
process.
if she hadn't been pulled, yeah, if she hadn't been pulled, then it could have been very interesting because 2/3 of the time one of those fans goes, and then it's not
Oh my
a 3 fans
gosh.
final
What
3.
could have been?
What ifs?
And then after that, it was just like pretty straightforward. I think it would have been smarter to vote out Bryce before Ace, just because Bryce is a better challenge player.
Mhm.
But I mean, it worked out as it did. They went the next 2 regardless. So then you have the final 3. And smart Rudes wins the final immunity. I think smart choice of her to bring Eric. Um, I don't know. I was a big proponent of Rudes, as you could see in my final tribal council speech. But
Yeah.
before final tribal council started, when we were deliberating as a jury, it was looking like Eric was gonna win like 5-2.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. Everyone just like I don't even know. It was really ridiculous. I think they were like a little bit bitter at Rudes and like I think
Mhm.
Shona was like still salty that she didn't stick to the Magnificent Seven. I was like, she made it to final tribal council with a
Yes.
shitty player. Obviously, she made a good move. Like, what are you talking about? So that's why I just like popped off at final tribal council. And yeah, I guess that's where we're at now. So,
Yeah, so Rudis brings Rudes, I'm sorry, Rudes brings Eric to Final Tribal. So you're telling us that before Final Tribal, the jury is deliberating and talking about who did what and what information they had. When I watched Final Tribal, like honestly, your speech, yeah, your speech at Tribal really stuck out, and I feel like was it Shona who also had her speech kind
maybe
of
I
stuck
don't know
out
if
to
she was.
me. Not
I
that
don't
it was
remember
like
her speech, but it
intense,
might
but
have
I
been.
think I remember like I think hers had definitely, if I'm remembering correctly, sorry if I'm not everyone, but I think hers had like a very emotional pull to it. Um,
Probably.
yeah, so Jack, do you want to share like tell everybody like kind of what your speech entailed and
Yeah, I
whatnot?
was essentially like, so going in, I think people were leaning Eric because everyone was a little bit disappointed by the all fan final three. And so at that point, they were kind of like, oh, we just like Eric more. And
Mhm.
um and he's just like a nice guy and he would really appreciate this win and like Rude's kind of like fouled us and blindsided us. So I was basically like, one, it's just hypocritical to be mad that she just played you. And you're
Mm-hmm.
mad that she didn't stick to your seven, but she made it to the end. Clearly it was the right choice. She was strategically the one guiding her, Sam, and Eric. She was the leader of that three. At the tribal where I went home, she was the only one who knew where every vote was going
Right.
and everything that was happening, and then was cognizant of the fact that she could make them split their votes on me and take out a
Mm-hmm.
threat. I was like, that's a
Mm-hmm.
great move. Eric just like sat around. I was like, Eric sat around like hoping to like massage Wendell in the middle of the night or something. And I was like, Eric really didn't do anything. Rude's like dominated the game. Also, I was like, you guys are saying you guys were like a little bit bitter towards Rudes for like betraying you, or you like are mad that she did something and you like maybe think she's like isn't the best person or whatever. I was like, last night when all of you guys were like crying and telling each other things, you guys seem to think she was a great person then. So if you don't think she's a good person now, you might just be a fake like motherfucker. So
Bitter.
like think about it. Like yeah. So I kind of just went off.
You went off.
Baby boy. Yeah, go off king. But
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how I am with like final tribal councils and stuff. If I,
Mm-hmm.
to me, once I'm out of the game, it's like how can I now win or like feel fulfilled?
Yes.
It's by getting the person I want to win to win. And so I just took that opportunity to just go in, and it ended up being a unanimous vote for Rudes to win. So it was pretty cool. And she had a good final tribal council performance too.
She did.
Um, Eric had a very bad one. Like at the end, I think another thing that swayed people is like someone said, Eric, like, tell me why Rudes doesn't deserve to win. And he's like,
I
oh,
can't
I
do
like
that.
everybody. I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not very nice of me.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, and everyone's like, dude, what do you like? That's just not how you play Survivor, bro. It's like if you can't. Also, I mean, I like Eric, like, and he's a big fan, and
Mm-hmm.
and even though I like dished on him at Tribal Council, and then he called me like jealous or whatever, like that was tense. But then immediately after we like shook hands, we were like, oh no, you did a good job, dude. But
I love
honestly,
it.
like, and I told him this, and like Bryce told him this. If he wants to play, like, be cast on and succeed in South African Survivor, you have to be more aggressive. You can't just be like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm not gonna say why I did better than someone. Like that's just not what they
Right.
want.
And he's got to voice his opinion at the vote outs and not just do like you said like he he did what Rudes told him like yeah he's probably part of strategy talk but during that one vote he was going along with stuff. Yeah, when watching that tribal council, when I was watching it I was like, "Ooh, Eric, you're not fighting for yourself enough." And Rudes, she had her delivery was kind of held back at first of how she was
Yeah,
speaking.
she started bad, and then she got.
Yeah.
Also, I will say something that was a big point of contention on the jury, or not contention, but or contention towards Rudes, was that
Mhm.
when uh Ramona was like having heat stroke, she said that Rudes came up to her and was like, "Oh, are you gonna get like pulled from the game?" But not in like a very sensitive way, and like "Oh, I hope you get pulled from the game, so because it would help me." And like that
Yeah.
was like fair.
Oh.
That's why people were questioning like, I guess like their feelings towards her. Um, but I mean, like I get it. Like that was kind of foul to do. You shouldn't be doing that. But again, like if you're a competitor in the middle of a game, like you do want to know if this person's going to get pulled. Obviously, it's not sensitive to ask them. And if you do, you should not be just be like, "Are you getting pulled?" You should be like, "Are you okay? Like, how are
Yeah.
you doing?" Um, but I'm just because I thought just because she did that, that doesn't mean she's like a bad person. She just like was caught up in the game. I
Right.
mean, yeah. So yeah, the right person won in my opinion, as they tend to do.
What
Yeah.
was the vote count at the end?
7-0.
7-0.
Yeah.
That's so
Unanimous.
interesting from hearing that it
Yeah.
was leaning the other way beforehand.
I know. I was surprised that it was leaning that way. And also, I think people like I don't again, the final tribal council probably would have changed it, but people would have voted for Sam over Rudes, I think too. I was not gonna if it was Sam versus Eric, like I might have gone a blow dart and just shot myself in the foot. It was I was really glad Rudes won because I would not want to vote between Eric and Sam. No, no, no bueno.
Wow. Evan, do you have any other questions about this part of the game at all? Or...
I don't think about not the final. No, I think we covered it.
Yeah, so I'll just and then I'll just share like real quickly like Jack, so after the game's over, you're still in South Africa for another week, is that true?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, we
Mhm.
traveled around. We went to Johannesburg, Cape Town. We hosted 2 meet and greets for fans to come meet the
How
survivors.
many people came to those?
Pretty good amount, I think. Both times they were at like a restaurant or a bar or whatever, where
Mhm.
there was some people there that weren't fans. But I'd
Yeah.
say, probably 20, 30 fans total, maybe
Wow.
20-ish, 20 fans. Um, yeah. And then some people recognized me from Bryce's Instagram stories too, so I was getting some screen
You
time.
were the star of
It was
Bryce's
hilarious.
Instagram story.
Um,
Goodness.
yeah, yeah, and we also went to some like sweet, like nature, like wilderness resorts and stuff like
Mhm.
that, and it was just a lot of fun. We went to karaoke too at a casino, and Bryce just went off like most electric karaoke performance I've ever seen. It was ridiculous.
What did he sing?
He sang a Lil Kim song. I
Oh
had not
dear.
heard of Lil Kim before this trip.
But you
Uh,
have
I've
now.
heard of her. Yeah, I know now. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. Cape Town was amazing. Johannesburg
Yeah.
was okay. Cape Town was
Uh-huh.
amazing.
Mhm.
I would definitely go back
Nice.
to yeah.
So, do you stay in touch with any of these people, or has
Yeah.
it similar
Um
to prior
Obviously
games?
Jill, because we
Of
knew each
course.
other beforehand. And then Bryce and Wendell a ton.
Wow.
Um
I'm not jealous. No.
No. And then yeah, Bryce and I are very close. And he gets mad sometimes when I talk to Wendell because he doesn't want to be Wendell's friend. It's like um and we were also there when the premiere of Survivor happened, so we all watched that together. Also,
Yes, that's
Bob Crowley
right.
was there. Bob was awesome. He
Yes.
Uh-huh.
didn't play, but he helped out. Um those are like the main ones I'd say. My bad if I'm forgetting
That's okay.
anyone, but
Well, now that you mention the Crowleys, uh, a lot of the people who went to South Africa to host this event are people who host the Survival Challenge in Illinois. And it was just so cool seeing like my friends, we have Kathy, there was
yeah.
Bob and
Yes.
Peggy, there's just like Claudia and Steve, like
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
there's
awesome.
iconic people who like make this event work, are doing it in South Africa and doing a great job at it. So, and they are, and Bill and his wife were, the
Fantastic
host.
job, yeah.
Yeah. And they did a great game, and it was, for a great cause. And everybody who came back from this challenge posted about the Naledi Christian School and posted about it was a life-changing experience for them, to play this game and to meet these kids and see the work that's
Mhm.
going on. And this was all a fundraiser for the Naledi Christian School. So
And for some people, it
So
was their
yeah.
first time like traveling out of the country too, which was
Hmm.
pretty crazy
That
and
is,
like obviously a epic undertaking for the first time
yeah.
traveling. But yeah, it was. I mean, what can I say? And I think they're gonna try to do it again next year. So you guys, anyone who's listening, I mean, it's just incredible. The Survival Challenge 2 in Macomb, like I can't recommend it highly enough.
Mhm.
Like those are two portions, like little like 2 week trips of my life that are like, and I'm sure you guys can attest to it, that I
Hmm.
remember like so fondly, like just
Mhm.
honestly like very like life changing in some way. Yeah.
Very life changing.
Yeah.
The survival challenge in Macomb will possibly take place in July, early July, like it took place last year. And if you would like to look more into that, find Survival Challenge on Facebook. Applications will be posted probably in January, I'm guessing.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
who knows when the Survival Challenge in South Africa will take place again? Hopefully, when I'm not
Hopefully
in the
next
middle of a
year.
school year.
Yes.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, Bill. I think they do want to do it next year, and Bill was saying they might like to switch up the time. The problem is during like our summer,
That's
like
right.
June,
Yeah.
July, it gets really cold there, so that's like why he was worried about it. But I
Yeah,
told him like even if you do like a month before, and it's a little bit colder. You just give some extra blankets, like people could suck it up. But
right.
yeah,
Love
but yeah,
it.
uh,
So, Jack, what's next on the horizon for you? Are you taking a break from games, or do you have some in? You don't have to tell us if it's
no,
secrets, but
I got nothing secret to say. I mean, obviously like life wise, just school mostly.
yeah.
Don't really have any traveling planned, although I would love to get some lined up. Like obviously I want to play the real Survivor. Applied
Hmm.
this year, I've not heard anything. Um, but it's
Boo.
cool. You know, never too late.
Yep.
So just hoping to do that. Live game wise, nothing really on my mind. Like I don't know if you guys have seen Sequester. That might be
Hmm.
interesting to me. And then once I'm old enough, I'll probably apply for Big Brother as well. Um,
Hmm.
but just in terms of like the smaller live games, I need a little bit of a break for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
mean,
I'm gonna try to come to the Survival Challenge and watch. I might know some people that play, so root for them. But
ooh,
yeah,
Oh, intriguing.
yeah.
teasers. You've done Survivor, you've done Big Brother. There's mole games that are popping up now, and I feel like those are coming back.
Maybe I don't know.
So, hey,
I know any mole game I play would be worse than the one you delivered. So I don't wanna. Like I've
aw,
already experienced the best
suck
of
up.
mole games. Yeah. I mean, you gave me $57, man. What
I
can I say?
okay, yeah, I did. You earned
Well,
it.
we are nearing 3 hours of talking about this
Wow.
challenge, which is almost the amount of time that Evan hosted the mole for. So,
Yeah.
um,
That mole game was actually epic. It honestly went from like 6 p.m. to like 1 a.m. It was
It
pretty.
was a
Yeah,
big
it was pretty
ordeal.
intense. Yeah. It was fun
yeah,
though.
if anybody ever makes it to Hearts of Reality, hit us up and we'll
Oh yeah.
we'll get you in one of
Yeah, that's the
Evan's
main game
games.
I'm looking forward to is one of Evan's games next year at the Hearts of
Okay.
Reality.
So now I have to do one. But
Yeah.
I
The
have
challenge
ideas,
or
don't you
something.
worry.
Oh, I
Oh
know you
yeah.
do. Yeah.
So Jack, thank you so much for taking this time out of your, out of your homework time to talk with us and share your story. I know there's tons of people who are interested in what happened. Evan, thank you so much for joining me with this, for helping me ask questions and giving your time, but I'm sure you enjoyed every second like I did.
Yes,
Yeah,
of
thank you guys
course.
so much for hosting me. Like it's a blast to talk it through, break it down with other Survivor fans too. Because for the last like 4 weeks, people have been asking me like, "Why are you in Africa?" And they're all like frat bros. And I'm just like, this is hard to explain, man. Like, you
Yeah.
think I'm doing Naked and Afraid or something? I don't know. So to
Just send
break it
them
down
this
with you guys and
podcast
catch
now.
up, this was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, so much fun. Thank you for having me back.
All right, guys. Well, that is it. If you have any questions about anything we talked about, feel free to reach out to us. I am on Twitter and Instagram at Hannah Gilia. Gilia spelled Gilia. Um,
Oh.
Jack, do you want to drop your handle for anything?
Yeah, you could if you have any questions or anything, or just want to throw me a follow on Instagram. It's Jack Atkins 21, or just like look me up on Facebook, Jack Atkins. Yeah.
I'm not
Evan, do you
that
have?
special,
I
but you
know
can
you're
find
not.
me. You can find me on Facebook, Evan Johnson.
Meet me outside. How about that?
How about that?
You can catch me outside.
All right, guys,
Yeah.
that is it. That's all I've got today. And thank you so much. Have a
Bye.
great day, everyone.
Everybody, drop your buffs. Drop your buffs. Everybody, drop your buffs.
Drop your buffs.
Everybody, drop your buffs.